All right, welcome. This is Orion Rising. I am your host, Leonard O'Neill. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good morrow, depending on where in the world you are tuning into the show. Show this out, show this out, show this out. It is Friday night for me, anyways. It could be Saturday for you, depending on where you are in the world. It's Friday for me. I'm in California, USA, 3 p.m. That's GMT minus 7. California time, it is Law of One. We are on session, what are we on? 55? Class number 55, session number 22, I believe. I backed up a few questions in the session to get us back up to, only because if I would have started exactly where we left off, if you didn't tune in last week, you would have no idea what we were talking about because it was literally in the middle of the conversation. Cassie, welcome. Right? It's been a minute since Cassie was on. You've had a lot of things to deal with in your personal life where you were needing to not be on a Friday to be paying attention and listening to me talk, right? Share this out, share this out. I'm going to share this as well. We can get some people in here. I'm on live on YouTube, live on Facebook on Orion Rising, and on Facebook on Returning to the Old Ways. So 3 places. We're live. Thank you for sharing that out. And you can hear me good, so that's good. Oh, you said good to hear me. I know we haven't talked for a minute either. I was thinking about that last night, and I was like, wow, it's weird because for a long time now, months, we've talked at least once a week. And well, I guess we can still consider that because we talked last Friday. So in truth, we have talked once in the last 7 days because today is day 7. And we talked a week ago, but we were talking more often, even in a chat, and we hadn't really done that in this last week. But I mean, it's okay. I mean, you got things you had to do. I'm not that important. I just thought, wow, that's weird because it's been so long. You know, I go in spurts like that where I talk to people a lot and then I don't talk to them for a while, and they do the same thing. You know, we kind of reflect on it and go, wow, that's weird. We haven't talked for a while. We should have. Okay, so it's Friday and it's the Law of One. So like I said, I backed up about 3 questions. We were on question 15 when I stopped last week. I backed up to I think question 11, only because if I don't, like I said, you wouldn't understand where we are. Literally, we're talking about the pyramids. Ra was asked by Dawn, the questioner, about the pyramids and their function being of a spiritual nature, and did they fail because the pyramids didn't work properly? And Ra was explaining that, remember, we are of the brothers and sisters of sorrow, which that is a long conversation that I'm not going to get into right this second. I'll try to paraphrase that as long as I can. There are different avenues of approach, just like we have different religions on this planet in this reality. Some people are of the teachings of love and light, souls, that is, beings, and others are of sacrifice, and that's the brothers and sisters of sorrow. So it's more of a sacrifice, which I am part of that. That's why you don't hear me talking and preaching so much love and light, even though I believe in that. And that's the majority of the message that I'm trying to get across. The truth is, I'm part of the brothers and sisters of sorrow, and that's why I have returned as a wanderer to this place, because of self-sacrifice. I was thinking about that, and I wanted to bring that up because we're talking about that. Literally, Ra just said that. And I wanted to give a definition that a lot of people sometimes, when they are waking up or are awake, and you get to this certain level of your development. So I wanted to cover that to show you the difference between of these categories, okay? So as you awaken, even on this earth, you will come to the reality that all of this is happening, and it's supposed to, and that everybody should be allowed to move at their own speed because we're all on our own individual path. So what happens is, as people awaken on this earth, they become less interested in trying to communicate all of this information to the masses. And they become either recluses or whatever. They just don't talk about it, and they don't let people know because they've hit that level where you awaken to the knowledge of the yin and yang and the dance that's going on here and how perfect that it is. And then you come to the realization that in truth, there's no reason to tell anyone anything, because those who are ready to get it will, and those who are not can't. So people, when they achieve that level in the beginning of learning that level of knowledge and wisdom, tend to pull away from assisting anyone at all on the earth. And they don't see anything wrong with it, because there's nothing wrong with that. Because the truth is, when you achieve this knowledge, you realize that all of this, even if you get to the realization of, oh no, they're stuck, you realize that all of this is happening because it's supposed to, in the time that it is. And then you hear people say, well, this is really rare, and people, entire species don't get stuck very often. I'm going to explain that too, because they do. And it is very rare, but it's done. And that's part of the plan as well, to allow that to happen. And I'll explain that in a second. So as a person, if you're a person who is in that place of your awakening to where you realize how all of this works, and that it is, in fact, what Ra is talking about, this illusion, and this yin and yang is, in fact, a dance, and there is no right and wrong, because people that are doing evil and narcissistic have to exist so that everybody can then serve the all in a better and more efficient manner, which was part of the plan brought together by all of us, the creator and co-creators on every level of the logos, sub logos. Okay. So then it's okay. And people just stand back. And I know my Wi-Fi is dipping down right now, so I apologize if I'm cutting in and out while that's happening. So what happens is, when a person is going through this for the first time and they're waking up, they tend to go, okay, well, there's no reason for me to tell these people, because they are going to only get it when they get it. So those people tend to not try and help. And it's not wrong of them, because they don't realize yet that this is necessary, and this thing that happens for people in the fifth and sixth dimension, or density. And the reason that it does happen is so that, okay, so let me go back to everything that happens manifests in a reason to give light to, or the ability of the soul to be affected in a certain way. The pyramids are what we were talking about in the last session. So the pyramid was there to give people the opportunity of going into the pyramid to then discover what the pyramids were invented for and intended for, and then ascend either in a healing way, or in a sacrificial way, or not literally killing yourself or dying for, but for giving to others and being in service to others. And the pyramids are no longer needed, because we don't need to have that tool anymore. But the tool was there to manifest, and then the memory of the pyramids still standing there are there, so that we in the future have the ability to then figure out or see them and go, I wonder what they were used for. And we need to figure that out. And then we investigate, and all these different possibilities as to who built them, when they were built, how they were built, why they were built, what their function was, allows people to go down many different avenues for their experience and for their belief system to expand their consciousness. So there is no wrong theory. So if you guys heard me like 2 weeks ago or a week and a half ago now, when I talked to Stephen Myers about the pyramids and how they were built, yet you see me talking on the law of one, and the Ra on the law of one say they built the pyramids, and Stephen Myers said he's got an idea how the pyramids were built. And I actually agree with that idea, not saying I don't think that Ra built it, but I do think that it is possible that the pyramids could have been built by humans back then. Whether they did it or not, we can't know unless we go back in time, or until a later date in our existence where we get to have access to that knowledge. Or aliens, like Denise just said in the chat, right? So my point here is that everything manifests to give light to people, to have the opportunity, like Ra talks about aliens and UFOs. Thank you for bringing that up, Denise. And that some of these UFOs are not, in fact, real. They're actually thought projections, and they're only there because that person wants to expand their consciousness to the idea that there is something larger and more and bigger in the universe than just the human race. So then they have this vision in their mind of aliens, and they believe they saw this, and that allows them to then explore that ideology, even though people ridicule them and say there is no definitive proof that aliens exist. And they're like, no, I swear I saw that. And that expands their consciousness. But everyone they talk to, it also affects like a drop in the pond. Do you see? Okay, so now let's go back to the point of what I was talking about, how then when a person is ascending and they get to the realization of how this place works, and then they ascend to a higher position of 4D, 5D thinking, they look back down on this reality and they realize that this is actually what is supposed to be happening. And so there is no, oh no, the bad guys are in, evil people are in charge and they've got us stuck and they've taken control and we're all slaves, because you realize that's part of the dance as well. So you've moved past into the realization that evil people did take control of this place and turned it into a quasi prison. And then you ascend past that to the realization of, oh, okay, this does happen in the universe and it's designed to, and it's supposed to happen in the universe. And then you think, oh, then I shouldn't be bothering them. There's no reason for me to bother because this is normal. Okay, so that is a normal realization. However, the function of a society getting trapped is not for you in third density unless you've graduated to that knowledge. And what happens is some people who are doing this for the very first time won't get the higher knowledge in this lifetime, and they'll just stay. I'm not going to talk to anybody because there's no reason to, because this is just happening in this illusion. It's not real. This isn't happening. It just thinks it's happening. And that's okay. If you're one of those people, what I'm about to say to you is going to sound a little crazy, and you're going to think that I am a little crazy, or, you know, that guy doesn't know what he's talking about. So if you're one of those people, it's okay. Okay, so if you're not, and you're going, I know that there's something else going on. The reason that this scenario happens in the universe where planets and species get stuck is because of giving the opportunity to higher plane existing souls that are part of the Self-Sacrifice ideology, which is called the Brothers and Sisters of Sorrow. And then if you're of that knowledge and that teaching and learning, you need to then sacrifice yourself in a larger way for the greater good. And what happens is, from the fourth and the fifth, usually from the fifth density, souls will then listen and hear the call, and they'll go to, like a moth to the flame, to that call, and then descend and sacrifice their ascension possibility for being stuck with those people to then come down to the planet and change things and help everyone to ascend to get them unstuck. So being stuck and a place being stuck is actually rare, but it's done because there is a group of souls from higher planes that need to have that ability to then get that achievement or experiences of doing this. And I'm one of those souls that are doing that. So in that sense, if this makes sense to you, and this is why I'm saying all this, because if it makes sense to you and you're like, yeah, no, I get that, because that's why I'm here, then you came from a higher vibration. Either you graduated, you're from this planet, you graduated to the fifth density and decided to come back as a wanderer, okay? Or you are a wanderer who's never been on this earth and you've decided to come back. And you're here. But if this doesn't make any sense to you at all, and I sound out of my mind crazy, it's probably because you're indigenous to this planet and this is your first trip to the level of actually understanding what I'm saying. Or you haven't woke up enough to realize that what I'm saying is in fact true, and you will at some point in this lifetime, because you're already at a place to where you know that this is normal. I know that sounds really crazy, and I being a physics major in college, it also sounds like some crazy math physics that I'm explaining, that if you don't have any kind of place to hold on to look at what I'm saying and get it, you're going to think I'm crazy. So for those of you who actually understood what I just said, then good for you. But those of you, if that sounds insane to you and it doesn't sound elementary to you, then don't get mad at me and start sending hate mail, because you're just not there yet. And, and people always say, well, what makes you think that you know what you're talking about? And I'm like, well, it's because I don't think that I know what I'm talking about. I have access to knowledge, and therefore it's the same knowledge that everyone gets and can be tested by checking with people all around the world throughout time who have said these same things. And it's universal. It's not like we're all reading the same book and following in the same person, because most of the things that I've said in my lifetime, other people have said, that's just like this book, or that's just like the Law of One. That's how I got onto reading the books of the Law of One, because I was talking about the way the universe works. And I had someone say to me, that's in the Law of One. And I said, what's that? And so I read that back in 2016, 2017, all the books, and said, wow, I need to talk about this. So I translated it the first time in a lower vibration and decided to, now that society is in a better place to understand a little fuller in a higher realm, because I'm rolling myself out to the world now where I wasn't before. I was just trying to get the message out. Now I'm actually rolling myself out, and all the people that work with me are doing the same. We're rolling ourselves out to the planet. You'll get to know more of us if you're not already aware of that in the future. Hi, Keith, by the way. Hi, Maddie, by the way. I didn't say hello to you guys when I first saw you in the chat. If you don't say anything in one of the chats, and I am on 2 places on Facebook, so if you're in one of the chat rooms, sometimes it comes in here and sometimes it doesn't. It's really weird. So if you're in Returning to the Old Ways and you say something and I don't acknowledge you, it's because I'm not seeing it. And I don't know why that does that. Facebook says it's StreamYard. StreamYard says it's Facebook. Okay. I hate when everybody points the finger at each other and they don't want to do anything because they're lazy. So they don't want to look into it and try and fix it. Okay. So we were literally talking about, now we're going to go into talking about Akhenaten and the life expectancy of the people in Akhenaten's era of Egypt at the time, which was about 4,000 years ago, 3.5 to 4,000 years ago now. Actually, maybe a little bit more than that, because we're in 2022, so it's 2,000 to 0. So this was probably 4,500 years ago. Don't quote me on that, but it was Akhenaten. You can look up when that was. And that's even debatable by mainly science, right? Mainstream science. Okay. So, yeah, and I thank you, Cassie, for talking about it's a great day. Today is the beginning of the waning of the full moon, which is a super moon, which is a blue moon. So it's a blue moon that's a super moon. At the same time, it's a blood moon, depending on where you are in the United States. Out here in California, it was deep red the night before last when it was over San Francisco, right? I didn't see it last night, though, when it was full. I didn't run out to see it. We had cloud cover, so we couldn't see it here, but the night before we could. So it is a full moon worldwide right now, which is a blue moon. So that's very rare, of course, because a blue moon, and it's a blue super moon, and it's a blue super moon blood moon, and it's actually a harvest moon, the beginning of the harvest that goes September, October into November, right? And then the harvest festival in December at the solstice. So if you're European and old world European religions at all, you know what I'm talking about. I guess even the Christians still, kind of use their holidays around that, right? Right. He says, we're not here to sacrifice. No, we're not. We're not here to sacrifice, but being here is a sacrifice. He says, not one of us. It's a planet tree, right? Association. And we are 15th live light mention. Not sure what that means. D is down, death, etc. Well, D is dimension, and the dimension is this physical place, which is here in all of this illusion, right? So it says third, fourth, fifth. That is all descent, dark, depression, demonic. Well, no, actually, no, it's not. It depends on what you see and where you are. Okay, so this place isn't evil and demonic in and of itself. This place is either heaven or hell, depending on what you see. So it's not, this place isn't inherently evil. It's just, this is the place where evil does exist and begins, because in this place, you have the choice for the very first time because you're self-aware. So I think, therefore I am. And then you have a choice of becoming either good or evil, either in service to all or in service to self. And that's just a dynamic that works here. And a lot of people take your ideology where you are in your development. That's what you think is that, well, this place is just all evil. And it's not. There's only 14% of the population on this planet that has chosen to be evil. In some form. Some of them haven't actually made the choice and said, yes, I am actually evil like the devil. They just are self-serving, and they don't realize that that is actually, in the eyes of the universe, darkness and evil. But it's a choice that everyone goes through. Just know this, Keith, just know this. If you haven't been that already, you will. Because for us to have a complete experience in this illusion reality, you will there is not a soul, and if there is, it's very rare, or some that did this before the veiling. Some of those people come back because they've never experienced this version of the reality, but otherwise you will be that evil if you haven't already. So looking at that and saying those people are evil and they're demonic and they're going to hell, that's a Christian ideology that was invented. The Christians even admitted that they created hell, that it wasn't actually a place. There is no purgatory, hell place that people go to. Okay, that is in your mind. All of that is a trap of the mind that is in this illusion. Do you understand? So the truth is that you just are. This place is not, there is nothing in the universe that is inherently evil. Nothing. There is not an evil tree. There's not an evil dog. There's not an evil cat. There's not an evil wind. There's not an evil plant. There's not an evil universe. There's not an evil sun. There's not an evil space. There is nothing that is inherently evil. The only thing that is evil is the soul that has the choice to be evil. Okay? That's it. Lucifer, Maddie says, wasn't Lucifer an angel? Yeah. But here's the thing. The story of the falling angels was explained by Ra early on in the first session. Okay. The first or second session, Ra explained, maybe the third at the very latest, explained how things worked in this universe. There was a time before the veiling when there was no darkness, there was no chaos, there was no in service to self. Everybody just was, but everybody knew that they were God. They were the creator of the universe. I use the term God because that's a term that people use on this planet. The creator of the universe. So because of that, the creator realized, I'm a lazy so-and-so because I've split myself into all of these creations around the universe, and I'm sitting around not moving and not doing anything anytime fast. So we need to come up with an idea that's going to move things along so that we have all these experiences a little bit faster than sitting around like a bunch of dopehead potheads out here in California going, oh, yeah, man, I'll get there, dude. Do you care if it falls? What's that, bro? Society. Fuck it. And you're just sitting around. That's what we were doing as souls in the entire multiverse, whatever you want to call that. Pantheon of verses. So then the creation was, okay, everybody gets veiled from the beginning and they only wake up at this level, and then they're only partially awake, and it takes them a long time to wake up from that, and in that they have a choice of being good or evil. So evil was created, and people, beings, souls, had to volunteer to say, I will descend and go down to the third dimension and become veiled and become evil. Those people volunteered to do that, and then a bunch of people volunteered to follow them, changing their entire polarity, and all of those people are the fallen angels. That's what happened. Okay, and then when you come to Earth, that is being shown to us in the 3D of the human race falling into destruction from a once grace where we lived for over 1,000 years. And then all of a sudden our life expectancy was about 35 years because we fell as an entire species and got stuck being evil. Okay. Right. So the Psalm is Hive equals high vibration energy, Israel. Look that up, right? Psalm Israel. Thank you. So if you look these things up, some of these words that we use that we don't realize, Israel, you need to look up what those mean. And hive means high vibration. So, and literally, if you look at it, let's use the bee in third dimension, the honeybee, say, is a hive mentality, hive complex species, just like ants are. And that gives rise to us seeing that in a 3D physical form, and seeing and studying them and seeing how they all communicate with one another somehow. And they all do all of this stuff. And all of that is there to show us the example in a microcosm, micro scale, to the macrocosm, the macro scale of the human species, or our condition as a whole. As we ascend above this, we become one as a species, and that species that was separate by, say, 1 billion souls, then becomes, or in this case, 7.5 or 7.9 billion souls. And then we will all eventually become one soul, one united personage, without any kind of interference from ourselves anymore. And we will then all become that one self. And then guess what happens? When you do that, you're like, say, the Milky Way galaxy, and that galaxy has a personality as an individual. And that galaxy is in a bunch of galaxies around them, and they start getting to know the other galaxies on a vibratory level, but everything is still showing on a macro or micro level, microcosm, down to the third dimension and first and second dimension. I know this is, now I'm getting into physics along with spirituality, but unfortunately they go hand in hand. So then you have this collective. Science is here on this earth is now discovered that the Milky Way galaxy is in a collective of galaxies. I've seen a picture of it, by the way, where they have expanded out and had a rendering from a computer simulation to show what that looks like. And guess what? That looks like one cell, one microscopic cellular organism, the same as our galaxy looks like, the same as our solar system looks like, the same as the human brain cell looks like. It looks just like that. So how far down are we from the creator if we keep expanding out? The Milky Way galaxy is in a cluster of galaxies, and that cluster of galaxies is now in another cluster of a cluster of galaxies. So that just continues as we're expanding our consciousness. We're starting to, even on this earth, go from, in the beginning of 500 years ago, we only knew there was the solar system, right? Or say 1,000 years ago. And then we saw these other stars and thought they were other planets that were close by us. Now we realize that some of them are stars with other planets around them. So now we're realizing solar system, and we're expanding our consciousness to the cosmos, and realizing that it's larger and larger. And just in my lifetime, it's gone from Milky Way galaxy is pretty much the only thing, to, wow, there's other galaxies nearby, to, wait a minute, these galaxies are making up a universe, and our universe is actually in a cluster of universes. Okay. So I remember 40 years ago, if you said multiverse, people were like, you're just insane. There's only one universe, and that's it. That's everything. And now they're like, well, wait a minute. It's possibility that a lot of these stars we think we're seeing out there are in fact entire universes, not just star clusters, or not just galaxies, not just solar systems. 100 years ago, they were just solar systems. 50 years ago, they were galaxies, right? Galaxies. Now they're expanding to universes and realizing that there is a multiverse. Do you see my point? So all of this is from your perspective, and this goes to the belief system that we all individually have, that all the truths we cling to depend greatly on our certain point of view, and that's our perspective. So from our perspective, for instance, this is the center of the Big Bang. From our perspective, the Big Bang happened here, okay, right here where the Earth is. I don't believe that's true. I believe that from everyone's viewpoint, the Big Bang happened wherever you're standing, because everything is a part of the Big Bang and has expanded out from that. Okay. So yeah, so some showing O-Ri or O-Ri on, right? So what these words mean, you know what? I was just watching on TikTok the other day a video that was shared to me, and it was Bruce Lee, and Bruce Lee said, never say anything negative about yourself, because your body doesn't know the difference. And so you have to be careful of what you say about yourself or anyone else. And I was teaching this when I was like 13, 14 years old, and people were telling me I was crazy. That I was saying you have to be careful how you see people, how you talk about them, how you perceive them, and the stories you make up about people in your head, because they're not always right. And most people get this idea that whatever I think is right, and then nobody can change their mind. And I believe that, and it is that way. And there's nothing you can do to tell me otherwise. That's your ego talking to you. And what happens is your body doesn't notice the difference, and then, and this is where Psalm is actually talking about the breaking down of words. And Bruce Lee furthered that with saying, don't say anything negative about yourself because your body doesn't understand the difference. Why do you think when you're writing, they call it spelling? Because you're casting a spell. Words have energy and words create the universe. This is me talking now, but that was what he was meaning. So Bruce Lee back in the 70s said this and then I watched a little bit of interviews with him when they were talking to him, and I realized he was far more awake than people ever gave him credit for. And so my point here is, and this is what Raw is talking about. So my point here is that you have to realize that everything is your perspective. That doesn't necessarily mean that that is the way the universe is. You start to realize that the more you wake up, and I'm going to wake up. There are people on this earth that say, wow, I don't know what I'm talking about. Leo, you're doing really good where you are. However, there's a lot more you need to learn. And I hope that never changes, because the truth is, and I teach this, and I'm going to teach that to you guys, then we're going to get into Raw talking about Akhenaten, is that literally nobody is ever perfect. The creator of the universe is not perfect. And people say, how dare you? Blasphemy. How dare you say that God is perfect? No, God is not perfect, because God created all of this for us to do this. That means that God is trying to figure out and have experiences of what it would be like to live through all of these experiences. So all of this was created for all of us to do this so that we could all relive every possible infinite possibility of things to do in existence we're doing, and we're playing out over and over and changing it slightly over and over and over and over in every scenario. We even make movies and television and books and songs that are telling the same story in a slightly different way. And we do that because all of us are individuals and all of us have our own perspective. So we're supposed to do that, because the truth is every story that could possibly be told has already been told, and it's just being retold over and over and over by different generations. And so some people get to that realization and say, and I've done this, why should I even bother then? Because everybody's doing it. Because your perspective is a different one and it's unique to you. So that's why literally when you're being trained as a police officer or any kind of investigation, when you question multiple witnesses, you separate them, because if you don't and they overhear each other, they'll all of a sudden start, whoever's the strongest willed person there who says it was a blue car, other people are going to go, yeah, no, it was blue. That's right, it was blue. So, and that's proven that you can get people to be swayed over. So they separate you and they ask you the same questions. And what happens is every individual has their perspective of what happened. So all of a sudden everything changes and you hear the story change, but then by asking 2 or 3 or 4 people the same thing, and then having another police officer, this is why they usually do this with 2. One person asks you, and then he goes to another person while the other guy comes over here and says, okay, tell me the story. Well, I just told that guy. I want you to tell me the story. The reason they do that is because they want to see how consistent each person is with their story. And then they go back and they talk to each other and go, well, I talked to that woman over there who calls herself Janice, and this is what she said. Okay, well, this is what she said to me. And then when you do that enough with 2 or 3 or 4 people, you get a better painting of what actually happened in that scene from listening to everyone else's perspective. Because some people miss things and they don't see what was going on right in front of their eyes because they were not paying attention at that particular angle at that time. So that's part of investigation. Okay, so but that is an explanation, an allegory for you, if you will, of the universe itself and what we're doing here. We're all having individual experiences, but like in this chat room, we're all having the same experience now. You guys are listening to me and talking to each other within the chat. Okay, so while you're doing that, we're all exchanging ideas and our point of view to one another, and that's expanding our consciousness because we're seeing other people's point of view on the same subject. Do you see? That is why it's important for all of us to do that. So the being stuck like this planet is giving rise to higher vibrations. Those people who are part of being in service to all, or the one, to then give rise to them to descend and sacrifice their their advancement by temporarily going lower in vibration to be born in a body down here, to come here legally, not a walk-in, but come here legally, or a walk-in. But the walk-ins, everyone thinks that a wanderer is a walk-in, and they're not. There's a difference, and I'm not going to get involved in that right now. I've done that in the past. So 90% of the people who are here like that are wanderers, probably 95%. I don't believe that there's a high number of people who are replacing souls down here, even though they've been stuck, and that's how they're justifying it. Well, there's a lot of people, they've been stuck here for a long time. A lot of people don't want to be here, so I came in. Well, yes, but they'll wake up to that eventually and realize they're a wanderer. Okay. And then there's different terminologies that some people don't call it a wanderer because they don't know that that's what that means. It depends on whether they're tapping into the Akashic record. Okay, so that gives rise for those people that are in service to others to then get the credit for descending and sacrificing their own journey as part of their journey to come down here. The ultimate sacrifice, or sacrifice is the ultimate thing you can do if you're in service to others. So instead of, I'm going to go and die and prove, right, like say Jesus did, or, other people, Mahatma Gandhi, some people choose that path to come down to die. And then some people, choose to serve. Do you see? Okay. So Maddie said, is being in service to one also being in service to all? Yes, it's the same. So everything is the one is, when I say that, I'm going further up all the way back to the creator. The all, I'm saying that the all is everything below the consciousness of the Godhead, the consciousness of the creator, all the other co-creators at every level coming to here. I actually put that in my book, and I just sent it to the publisher, and they just sent it to the editor. And I said, I need a note on there to the editor that when I refer to the all or the one, do not, if you're running it through a computer program, it's going to want to take the out and just say all or one. And that is not what I'm saying, because if I'm just wanted to say one, I would just put the word one there, O-N-E, and that means individual. That's not what I'm saying. I'm the one is the one true creator. And I didn't. And if they say, well, how it can't get by our program, then I'm going to have them add the one true creator, the all of consciousness in the universe. If I have to add those words every time I make that reference, it'll expand my book by probably another 2,000 words or more. Right? So I'm not concerned with that. If that's what happens, then the book's longer. It goes from 255 pages to 300 pages. I don't care. If that's what has to happen, I'll do that. Bo, welcome, by the way. Deborah, welcome, by the way. So the answer to that is it's the same, but one, the all is the all consciousness on a higher level, and then the one is on a higher all the way to the creator, or the individual, depending on what your reference is and what you're doing at the time. Do you understand? Okay. Maddie said drugs like LSD, what is that, salvia? I've never heard of that. And do all that. Feels like the expansion of your mind. These drugs, DMT, ayahuasca, the drugs that are out there that expand your consciousness, they've always been out there. It's just that they're now hitting the mainstream, because if you go back into the 60s, people were going around the world and doing, the blue lotus, the purple lotus has the same psychedelic effects and all that stuff. Ayahuasca was already there. It's just that people in the United States didn't know about it. People in the modern world didn't know about it until it's now taking hold. But and in the 60s, that was the only way people could expand their consciousness to get to the place where we are now. Or to expand the consciousness. And so that's there. Those plants, those substances are there. Again, like seeing a UFO, if it's not a physical, actual ship that is here, that is there to give rise to you to have the possibility to expand your consciousness. We can now do that without having to do those. You can still do them because it does assist, but they're only 10 minutes unless you overdose on them, and then that's bad. If you take the proper doses, you're expanding your consciousness for 10 minutes, and you're on this incredible journey, and then bam, you wake up and it's over. And then you have to get reoriented, just like you do when you wake up here, because you don't want to be here anymore, because you feel what it feels like to be there, because it pulls you out of your physical body and up into your higher self at the 6th density, okay, or halfway through the 6th density. And then you could travel and, pardon me, I'm talking for 41 straight minutes. I don't normally do that. So, so literally that's there to do that. And people, even at a higher level, can do that to expand their consciousness even higher. But we don't need to. People are doing that without the need for those medications and those drugs anymore. But they're still there to do that. It's not a bad thing if you're doing it controlled, in a controlled environment with people there that are not going to screw with you to mess you up, and that you're there doing it for a spiritual reason to expand your consciousness. Otherwise, yeah, right. So Penny says, I find that no matter where I am I find people that just need to have one person believe and treat them. Well, that is where the population is, Penny, currently. Believe them. The best friend may need that. I always find these people. That what happens is as you start expanding your consciousness, those people then tend to see and that need that validation. They actually, whether they know it or not, instinctively, they seek out people to help expand their consciousness because they know that there's something there, but they don't know what it is, and they don't really know which avenue to go as far as to expand their consciousness. So they start looking for people, and sometimes it's subconscious or superconscious, depending on how you want to look at it. And then people move from there to those people and help to expand their consciousness. And Keith says DNT, I think you're saying DMT, is already in your mind temples. You don't need medication. Absolutely, Keith, you're actually 100% true. That, and I talk about this in my book, and I've played the video or sent the video into the chat, a Law of One chat on Messenger. If you're not in that, you should have somebody add you to that because we have really good conversations in there after the show during the whole week leading up to the class on Friday. So it's a really good place to learn from. But there's a video out there that I can link to that shows that. You probably already know it because you're making the comment about it, that it's actually developed in your brain, in the hippocampus of your brain, as it is the pituitary and the your what is it, your third eye and your I can't think of what the gland is now, right off the top of my head, because I was on an expansion there. But those oils get together and they're charged with electromagnetic, because one is electronic and the other one, or electricity, and the other one is magnetic. The two of those descend down your spine and then back up your spine and get charged through your chakra energies, and it goes up and then it sits dormant in your brain. That's the Christos, the Christ descent and rising out of hell, Helios, and ascending and then illuminating. It's the same story as Ragnarok, with Thor coming down to Midgard, Midgard, Earth, and then ascending back with an army of people and cracking the sky and chasing Fenrir the wolf. Fenrir the wolf is the veil of your consciousness, and he's using lightning, Mjolnir. Thor's hammer means lightning. Thor means thunder. His name means thunder and lightning, and he illuminates by cracking the sky and chasing Fenrir the wolf out of the sky, and that illuminates the sky. And that is the same as the ascent of the Christos into your brain, that illuminates your mind and charges all of your brain cells, the ganglia cells in your brain, with all kinds of electromagnetic energy that enlightens and illuminates you, and actually illuminates your soul and charges your soul and expands your consciousness at the same time. So that is DMT that's in the body. That is, we create, okay? And so he's absolutely right, 100%. Keith, what you're saying is 100% right. The holy oil, so you do know about what I'm talking about. Yes, that's, let's say, because that's what it's called, the holy oil. In fact, in the ancient times, I read about this in my book, and like I said, there's a video that talks about it as well. In the ancient times, it was called the holy oil, the Christos, and that's where you get the name Christ. Christos is a Greek word that means Christ, and it was the holy oil that goes down your spine and back. And this happens every month in your body, depending on your sun sign that you were born under. So whatever your sun sign, I'm a Virgo. My birthday is in 9 days on the 10th. Okay. So the moon phase every single month will go into every single sign in all of whatever sign you are. It'll go into that sign for 3 days. It goes in, goes, and then goes out. Okay. In that 3 days, it's actually 2.5 days, but in that 3 days, if you do not have any sexual contact with anyone or alleviate yourself by masturbation, and you do that for a 4-day time period in that range, that is the time that the oil descends from your brain down your spine and then goes back up your spine. And if you use pleasures of the flesh, meaning the third dimension, that's called eating from the fruit of the tree of life. That's what the story was supposed to be telling you of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden and eating from the tree of life. But they edited the story so it just sounds like they ate this fruit that gave them the knowledge of good and evil, and that fucked us all up. That's a lie. That's not what that story was intended to teach you. And scholars know that. Theologians know that. And whether people want to believe it or not, that's the truth of that. So that story has been corrupted into believing that the reason that women have problems with their cycle and have pain during childbirth is because the original sin, which was all women are inherently evil, and you're paying for one woman who ate the fruit and then got Adam to eat the fruit too, and that caused the downfall of the human race. That's a lie. That entire thing is a lie because they don't want you to realize that what they're talking about is something more ancient than that. The knowledge that was there that the Hebrews knew about that was more ancient than Christianity today, or I should say the council, David first with his councils, then the Council of Nicaea, the first and second Council of Nicaea, or Nice, depending on where you're from the planet. And they took out 3/4 of the books from all the Bibles and tried to burn them and destroy them so that nobody knew them because they didn't want the information to be told. Some of those are what we now refer to as the Dead Sea Scrolls because a group of people called the Essenes, who were a sect in the religion at the time, disagreed with what they were doing and getting rid of all this knowledge. So they took the sacred knowledge and ran out into the Dead Sea area and buried them. And they were hoping to come back and find them later to get the word out. And of course, the establishment at the time, the Council of Nicaea, used their knights and hunted all the Essenes down and murdered them all, trying to find these scrolls so they could get them and burn them. And then when they couldn't, they decided kill everyone who has the knowledge of where they are, and we don't have to ever worry about those scrolls again. Well, 1948, we found scrolls in the 1940s. They were found and translated, and now we have the Dead Sea Scrolls, and now we know the story of what happened to the Essenes. They were all murdered to shut them up and to get the knowledge out to the world. However, because of the universe and the way it works and the law of one and the way that things work, the prime directive, it came back out. And guess what? We have that knowledge to read now, and it's out there, and it tells a different story from the Orthodox point of view of all the churches that are currently teaching. And that pisses them off. Wait till my book comes out. I'm going to be ridiculed by all the churches. I'll probably be disavowed and called a heretic and excommunicated from the Catholic Church, who knighted me back in 2004. Okay, they'll probably excommunicate me over it. I don't care. I don't need their permission. Their permission doesn't mean anything to me, right, at all. So if they want to excommunicate me and officially, he's no longer a knight of the Holy Roman Catholic See. Oh, okay. Yeah, just like you did to the Knights Templars, and guess how that turned out for you? They're back. The knowledge they were talking about is being taught to the planet, and you guys are now less listened to than they were when it comes to theology. Just saying. Okay. And I was raised Roman Catholic. Okay, so my point here is that the pyramids were there to give rise to the expansion of your consciousness. They're not needed anymore, as we pointed out. DMT, ayahuasca, and purple lotus, and all of these things throughout history were doing the same thing. Peyote, THC in marijuana. If you get a high enough, if you get something that's 100, parts per million, or milligrams per, whatever, and not like, because they sell only 20 to 50 now because they don't want you getting too high. Why do you think they call it high? Again, let's talk about words and what they mean, right? So, look at how that is. So if you get high enough, I grew up in a time when people were shooting for over 100 parts per million of THC to get super high. So I would smoke something that's 50 parts per million, and I would smoke a couple of bowls to get myself, even literally not too long ago, to get myself high enough to feel that high. And so when somebody gives me something that's weak and I'm like, oh, this will let me drive down the road and not, yeah, you're okay with this because you're kind of high. I'm like, give me a couple more hits so I can really get up there in vibration. So literally that's what I would do. And my sister does that now. And she's like, oh my God, this stuff is so weak compared to when we were younger. I'm like, yeah, you got to smoke a bunch of it now. It's kind of a waste. So I always tell people I need to have the indica, right? So I'm the indica couch. I want to be so high that I'm sitting there tripping because that is what I was trying to do and what everybody's trying to do with that drug. But we don't need that. We can do that through meditation now. So on a higher level, right? Penny's like, right, same. Penny, you're almost my age, aren't you? You're close. You're only a few years younger than me. You know what I'm talking about, right? Back in the day, we used to smoke that stuff and get high. And that was what we wanted. We didn't want that weak ass shit. We called that skunk weed. What, did you grow this in your backyard or in your house? It's skunk weed, dude. I need another hit. So then nowadays people are smoking that stuff. They're like, oh yeah, this is really good, dude. This is like gives you all kinds of energy. I'm like, it's because it has more DMT in it. So you're instead of THC. So yeah, you're gonna have more energy because the DMT makes you feel good. It's like taking a freaking narco. So and then you got a little bit of a buzz. We used to do that. We would smoke pot and drink red wine, or we would take uppers. That's what they talked about in in that movie where they were going back to Vietnam to get everybody out. And one of the characters played by Randall Tex Cobb was his name was Sailor. They called him Sailor. Why do they call him Sailor? Because he sails away, drinks red wine, and takes uppers and sails away. At that time, I was like 16, 17. We were doing that. We were drinking Ripple and taking uppers or smoking pot and doing the same so that we could sail away because it adds to the high. Creeper weed. Yeah, I love that, Penny. We called that skunk weed too, right? Creeper weed or Indian skunk, right? Or we'd call it Apache. I used to say, ooh, this is Apache weed because you never even see it coming. It creeps up on you. Love that stuff. And then, but see, the problem with that stuff, Penny, is that people, they don't feel high. So then they take more and they take more. And then all of a sudden they're really fucking high and they trip out. See, we learned to go, okay, is this creeper bud? We'd ask the person before we started smoking it. And the people usually would go, yeah, dude, no, it's cool. You just take a hit and wait because you're going to be okay. In a few minutes, you're going to be pooping, right? Yeah, the Psalm says the ninth realm. Yeah, right. We used to call that Cloud 9 when I was a kid in high school. And now I'm just reminiscing. When we go to the bathrooms, they were getting all artsy fartsy. And so they were painting all of the bathrooms and the entryway to the bathrooms a sky blue, and they painted clouds in there because they wanted it to be serene for all of us because kids were, they were going in there and doing graffiti. So they were painting stuff like a mural, but it was all with these clouds. So those of us I was dying laughing. I was 16, 17 years old at the time. I think I was 18 at the time. So I was in high school. So between 16 and 18, we numbered the clouds. And there was a big cloud, and we called that one Cloud 9, right? That was Realm 9. And so that was where we'd go to smoke pot so that we wouldn't get caught. We'd go in the bathroom, get high, and we'd have lookouts in the hallway. And that way nobody would get caught. And if the teachers were coming through or some narc, they would just knock on the wall, and then people inside would go, oh, crap. And then we'd put everything away and come running back out and spray ourselves with something so we didn't smell like pot or whatever. And we'd also sell dope in there. That was where you went in to buy and sell whatever you had, and we would have security, right? So we called that Cloud 9. So literally the men's bathroom in the hallway in my high school was called Cloud 9. The teachers didn't know about it. They didn't know why. And then they started learning that. But then they were just like, oh, okay, so they're tripping. They're young kids, and they're calling it Cloud 9, ha. But they didn't realize that was the place where everybody went to smoke pot. Everybody went there to buy and sell drugs. And literally we had security. So there would be like 10 or 15 or 20 of us on every break that would stand in that hallway, although they called us stoners back then. And we would all stand in that hallway, and that was what was going on. People would be going in and out of the bathrooms anyways to go to the bathroom, right? So it didn't seem weird that 2 or 3 people would go in the bathroom and be in there for a few minutes and come back out. So that's literally how we got away with it the whole time I was there. We ran the school, sold all the dope out of that hallway. And if you had dope and you wanted to sell it, we'd let you sell it, but we took a cut to provide you with security. Otherwise, you'd have to sell that dope the best way you could without getting caught wherever you wanted to hide on the planet. And we didn't care. Otherwise, you had to pay us money to sell that dope, and you could come in and out and have as many customers as you wanted. But if you drew too much attention to you, you were out of Cloud 9. You were banned. And not a joke, for 3 years while I was in high school, we ran that school that way and sold dope out of there. And one of the teachers actually said, I think those kids are doing dope or selling it out of that. And I was like, you got to catch us to prove that, bro. Anyways, and I'll bet that goes on everywhere. If I was doing it, everybody's doing it in some fashion somewhere. And then you have a spot, right? Okay, so back to the point here, even though that was in a way also a parody on how to, or a parable on expanding your consciousness, because we were making it available for people to get high and expand their consciousness. And we weren't doing it because we wanted to screw with them and make them freak out. Although that also is, in a sense, the same thing. Even though you're giving somebody a bad experience, it's still, an experience. All experiences are what we're here to do. Okay, so I know now I've been in here for an hour and haven't even started playing any questions. I apologize for anybody who's gotten angry. And if you're saying something in the chat and I'm not noticing it, it's because you're in one of the two chats that is either on Orion Rising or the Returning to the Old Ways. And because of that, I can't see it. And for whatever reason, when I share it to those two, one of the chats doesn't come in here, or if it does, it comes in without your name. I don't know what's going on, right? So, right. So, Cassie said that's really awesome. And like Leo said, we don't need this stuff in order to have these same experiences. Well, some people might, but the truth is we don't anymore. Cassie's absolutely 100% right. There might be somebody who can't achieve that yet. And that's the only way. And that's why they're experimenting with that. Right. And so that's helping them. But we don't need, she's absolutely right. And I should put that in capital letters, because we don't. What we're capable of doing today in the 60s. So we're looking at 60 years ago now. They couldn't do this. You couldn't just use your ascension by meditating on a mass scale. It was individuals that could do this back then. Now everyone can. Or I can't say everyone, because if everyone could do it, it's like common sense. It's only common if everyone has it. So the truth is, the majority of the population don't need that anymore. And then the people that are using those don't realize they actually don't need that. However, it's okay for them to do that because that expands their consciousness. Look at Aaron Rodgers and how he is today because of ayahuasca, right? And or a psilocybin. I don't remember if he just did ayahuasca or if it was mushrooms. I think he said it was ayahuasca. But either way, psilocybin is in ayahuasca and DMT. It's all DMT. Psilocybin is a synthetic DMT. So that's literally just what our brain already creates, and we can create that by paying attention to your cycle. And I teach this, and I have, and there's videos out there. If you know when your sun sign is, and you pay attention to the moon cycle, and find out when the moon, mine just did, and it's coming up in a couple of weeks, when the moon goes into your sun sign, and it'll be in your sun sign for that 3 days. If you use a day and a half, say, prior to, and then a day after, just to be safe, so you're in it for like 4 or 5 days, you don't have any sexual contact, then you're not eating from the tree of life. And if you're also not drinking alcohol at the time, and you're not eating bad food, and you're taking care of yourself, meditating and the like, you will expand your consciousness naturally, because that DMT gets released into your brain. And that is the Christ rising, or it's the Savior character that manifests on the physical everywhere. Thor was that character. Achilles was that character. And if you look at their stories, probably my next book, I said this last week, I made a claim that my next book will probably be about self-help. But the truth is, it'll probably be a comparison of these things, and showing you, like Joseph Campbell's book, The Hero with a Thousand Faces, where he talks about mythology. And I've never read the book, but I've heard him speak when he was still alive. When I was a teenager, when he was still alive, I watched him speak. I didn't go to the college where he taught. I wish that I could. I wasn't old enough at the time. I was just in high school at the time. But he literally wrote this book called The Hero of a Thousand Faces. And it's literally, he was onto that. And he shows how, and the correlation in his teachings at the college, which I've also seen that were filmed, that he talks about how, and shows the correlation of Carl Jung's idea of shadow work, and how that correlates to, say, the death and resurrection of Jesus, or the descent of Thor, and then having to prove himself worthy to be able to pick up his hammer again, and then ascending up into the heavens to crack the sky, and the story of King Arthur, and the descent of the sword, and only the pure at heart could then draw the sword and rise to become the king, and then that king falling and having to realize you and the land are one, and as you thrive, the land thrives because you are the creator and you are a co-creator here. And he had to realize that, and that was the secret of the Grail that then rejuvenated him, and then he had to go and right the wrongs and fight and destroy the evil and help the people become free. And in doing so, he sacrificed himself. It's the same story as the Christ character. So literally manifest in a story, whether it's true or not. We don't know if Arturius existed, but they think he did now. The same with Robin Hood. Robin Hood, the Robin of Locksley, they don't know if that person was a real person or if it's a story as a combination of 3 or 4 people, just like they don't know whether Jesus really existed or not, or whether it was created. The truth is, we don't know if Thor was real either, if it was just a manifestation. It doesn't matter. What matters is the story of what they were talking about is, in fact, that same manifestation to give rise to you, all of you out there, to expand your consciousness. And then now Psalm's going into 3, 6, and 9, right? It says, why 3, 6, and 9 follows me everywhere. And then it says, who are these numbers nodded to? Absolutely. And I don't know if that was a fictitious statement, Psalm, because you were expanding people's consciousness, or if you were actually asking that question. But 3, 6, and 9 does follow you everywhere because it is, in fact, the creation. And I'm sure you know that. That's why you said that. 3, 6, and 9 is the creation. 3, the first 3 is literally this third dimension, this place. And it's the charm of making. And I'll tell you that in a second. I'm sure you already know that. And I'll give it to you not in the ancient Welsh. That's a little bit different. It's pronounced slightly different, but I'll give it to you in the ancient Gaelic or Irish. Not Gaelic, but Gaelic, the Irish version, in a second. So 3 is time, space, nature, right? This reality is 1, 3 energy. But we, because we are here, are also a 3 energy. So when we take our intention, right, that's our 3 energy, and when we apply it to the time, space, nature and time, space, when we apply our intention to that to create, that becomes the 6 energy. And then when we take that energy that we have now created, its potentiality is there, and it's infinite, of course. And then we take our intention once again into that energy to then create something in this place. That becomes the 9 energy, and the 9 energy is the hex boson. That is the God energy, the creation of the universe. That is the golden mean ratio and the Fibonacci sequence, both vectors applied as one. And connected, thank you, because they are all connected. Psalm says connected, because they're connected, and that becomes the 9 energy, and that's the 3, 6, and 9. And then when you take your intention once again, so 3 plus 3 is 6, and then 6 plus 3 is 9, and 9 plus 3 is 12. So when you then take your energy again and apply it to that creation to then create as a co-creator in this place or of this place, then you are becoming the one. That is the 1. So 12 is actually 1 plus 2, which is 3. And that goes back again. Or if you say 12, now that you've created, it becomes 15, right? Because 12 plus 3, right, is 15. Well, 15 is what? 1 and 5 is 6. There you go. That just still is going back down. And then if you go up again, another 3 from 15, 16, 17, 18, that's 9 and 9. That still goes back down to 9. It's the base root. So everything is cyclical in nature. So when it gets to 24, do you know the enigma of 24, Sam? Let's test your physics and your math. The enigma of 24 is that the Fibonacci sequence on the enigma of 24 recycles and starts over every 24th time, right? So literally that's the infinity of the universe is the number 24, which is 2 plus 4, which is 6. And that literally is 3 plus 3. Okay, so, or 3. Right. So I know that's, if you know anything about the Pythagorean theorem, you know exactly what I'm talking about. He says you're on point. Yeah. Right. So Literally, that is the secret to the universe. And that's the reels or shorts that you can watch on my platforms, on Facebook and on YouTube and on Instagram. I'm no longer on TikTok, so some of those are not there. Thank you, Sam. And I love you as well, because you actually know what I'm talking about. Keith says, not trying to create a big bang, the end, boom. It was me that woke and started the shit now off in 2017 and 2021. 369 is, and he says, my racing pigeon, etc. Loft number. Oh, okay, that's kind of crazy, right? What you just said, the Prince Thor, etc. is correct. Pagan or is a Pendragon. Yeah, Uther Pendragon. So you know that story, Keith. Keith, you're on to the symbology or the mythology and of creation. And so let's get to the charm of making, because if you know Uther Pendragon, right? So if you know the Pendragon, you understand the charm of making. But the dragon, what is the dragon, Keith? The dragon is, now here goes Peter Coyle from Ireland with his mathematical equations that'll boggle your freaking mind right now. And he noticed that he has the triangle in there, which is 3, 6, and 9. And look at his equations when he does that. If you actually know the math, my nephew sees this math and he goes crazy over Peter, because Peter just channels that shit and puts it out there. He used to do that with binary code too, but nobody got his binary but me. Okay, so Pendragon, so of the dragon. Pendragon means of the dragon. And what is the dragon? The dragon is everything in nature, all as one. And so I am a druid, and I am a Merlin. So I love that you brought that up. I do have the Merlin title, which is not something you can just readily get from the druids these days. And if they are giving it out, trust me, I went through 18 years of my life in training to get the druid title, fellas. I'm not joking about that. My father gave it to me. He was to get that Merlin title. He was a Merlin, and he passed it down to me. But I literally started when I was like 2 years old. And literally when I could speak, and he caught me casting a spell on my bed, I was casting a circle, a bubble to sleep in, because I didn't want any negative energy or evil energy to be able to touch me. And he said, how do you know to do that? Where did you learn what you were doing? And I was like, I don't know. I just know that this is the way. And he was like, it is the right way. And he said, well, what are you worried about? And I said, some evil out there. And I'm going to get to the charm of making. I haven't forgotten it. Evil out there. I don't want it to get to me. He says, what evil? And I looked out past the window outside, and I said, behind the tree, we had a bunch of trees in our backyard, and one of which was a black walnut. Behind the black walnut tree, there's that evil thing that's red with the glowing eyes. My father looked out there and looked at me and said, you can see that? And I said, yeah, can you? And he said, yeah, but I didn't think you could see that. And I'm like, yes. And he says, describe what it looks like to you. And I told him and what it feels like. And he said, okay, you're right, but I'm not going to allow that evil to come in the house. And trust me, it's not going to be able to. Do what you're going to do and go to bed, and tomorrow start your training. I may have been 3, maybe 4 years old. So from then until I was 19, I was being taught these ancient druid ways by my father and told not to tell anyone about it, because they wouldn't understand this. And as I got older, I realized why. And then he gave me the Merlin title before he died. He passed on when I was 19 years old, on December 27th. Figure out that math, right? December 27th, 12/27/82, I think it was. No, it was 86. So look those numbers up and figure out the star chart on that. I've done it. It's kind of freaky. Anyways, so literally, Uther Pendragon, the dragon is the energy of the all, and that it is alive. And that if you were able to see the dragon in its whole all at once, and it got you got its attention, if it looked at you, it would burn you to cinders and cast your soul into oblivion, because it looked at you and you didn't have the necromancing ability to be able to withstand it. And I've had a conversation with the dragon. I wrote that literally in a meditation. I was going to write an entire book about it, and I think I mentioned it in my book that I just wrote about that, where I literally had that conversation with the dragon and saw it in its entirety, but was not destroyed by it. And that was the story of Smaug and him having to put the ring on to be invisible, because Smaug would burn it to cinders. That's the story of the dragons. Anyways, so the Pendragon meant of the dragon, and Uther was of the dragon, and he was self-serving, and he wanted to have sex with the king's wife. So he had Merlin change his guise to look like the king, and he rode back in and basically raped the king's wife, where she thought she was having sex with her husband, and impregnated her and begat Guess who? Arthur, who became king. But because he was of that bloodline, and he had given, Merlin had the Lady of the Lake give the one ring, the one sword, the singing sword, Excalibur, to Uther. Uther used it and his powers for evil. So because of that, it was his undoing. And when he died, he said, no one shall wield Excalibur but me. And he drove it into the stone. And Merlin saw that and said, no, it's going to be someone who has a pure of heart, who can draw this and prove to the world, and then right what has been wronged by Uther Pendragon. And so because he was using the dragon energy for evil, it had to be righted. So then Arthur was born and became king and righted the world and freed people from the robber knights and became a good king. But then his sister came and did the same thing and raped him and had another child. And so the cycle was happening again. But Arthur didn't do it out of malice. It was his sister that did it out of malice, using the information that she gained, the knowledge of the creation, the charm of making, from Merlin, and imprisoned Merlin and took those powers for evil. And once again, Arthur had to go through the same test his father had to go through, which is the same test in the Lord of the Rings that Strider, the would-be king, had to become the king and prove himself that he would be worthy of the One Ring and not then succumb to it like his father. It's the same story. So, which is the same story of Thor and all of that. It's the same hero of 1,000 faces that we've recreated in multiple stories. The purpose for me telling you this is to show you, remember earlier on I said every story that's ever been told is or has already been told, and we're all just telling different versions of it. I just gave you more versions of that same story. Now, those are all allegories. Let's go back. The charm of making, which is 3, 6, and 9, which is literally to go back to what I was saying with taking the intention of your 3 energy and adding it to the 3 energy of time space in this place, nature, time space, makes it 6, and then adding your energy into it again to create makes it 9, which is the hex boson, the God energy, and then utilizing that to create. Is the charm of making is literally Anal Nathrach Uthvas Bethud Dothiel Dienve. That is the Irish, not the Welsh. The Welsh is a little bit more eloquent. Like the word Dothiel Dienve is more of a Gallic translation, like Celtic to Celtic, and it's so it's instead of Dothiel Dienve, it's Dothiel Dienve, where they say the C more as an S sound instead of a THC sound, where I say Dothiel. Dothiel has a little bit more of a Latin influence. The Irish has a little bit more, has influenced the Latin. It's not the other way around. Irish is older, and Welsh is older than the modern Irish. And so it has a little bit more of that sound that is it's still in that. And so that is Dothiel Dienve. So it's Anal Nathrach, like that, instead of Nathrach, because there was no TH sound in the Irish. So the Nathrach is a middle Irish translation to that. And I know that's crazy that I'm getting into the linguistics, but I am teaching myself 22 languages currently. So literally the Welsh is a little bit more accurate, but that translates to Anal Nathrach Uthvas Bethod Dothiel Dienve, translates to all that is nature and of time space, do heed my intention. So that's literally, I'm taking my intention as 3 energy and I'm calling to all that is time, space, and nature. Heed my intention, because I am the creator. I have the ability to create here, and I am taking that energy and applying it to this, to do something, to cast a spell. And then if you then create a bigger spell by giving your intention and your energy into it again, that becomes the God particle, the hex boson, the 9 energy, which is controlling of all, which creates all, which is all and nothing. 0 point. 9 is both 9 and 0. So it is everything and nothing until it becomes, it is potential. It is potentiation, is infinite energy as everything or nothing until you use it. And what you use it for, it then manifests into reality. So the hex boson becomes, so the charm of making is conjuring that energy of yours and putting it in in this reality. And then to make something happen here, you have to then have the intention of using that energy, now that you have infinite potentiality, to then create something here in this reality or in all realities. And that's the difference between 0 and 9. And where in between that fits is depending on your determination. So literally that is, I've given you I don't care who you are. If you're paying attention to this, I've taken you from an explanation. This is in my book, by the way, that will be coming out in probably 3 months from now. It's going to be 30 days just for the editors to go over everything, unless they don't have anything else to do. I was just told that today by my publisher, that your book went to the editors today, and then in about 30 days, about 3 to 4 weeks, you'll get from them what they want to change, and then you can say yay or nay, or change it this way or that, and then they'll fix it. So literally, before it even goes any further, just to be edited, it's going to take a month, right? But the book will be out, but hopefully in December it'll be out, and all of what I'm telling you now is in that. And this is literally what Raw is telling us. Okay. We're right, Megan. Welcome, by the way. I didn't say hi when you said something earlier. She says yes. It was. I have been in the cave where there are dragons. That's where I went. Oh, then you're going to get me going down that path. I have been there 3 times. It's beautiful. Okay, so now I'm going to have to go down that path. Megan, let me tell you my story of years ago now. And it was right after my father's death. So it was in like 1989 to 90, 91, 92, somewhere in there. So 30, 40 years ago, 35 years ago or so, I'm meditating. And all of a sudden I'm on a mountainside and I'm walking up this path that's winding up this mountain. To my left is a valley and in another mountain not too far away, and I'm going up this pathway that's obviously well traveled, and I come up to what looks like a cave entrance, and there is a human dressed as a kachina. That's a Native American headdress and full body as the eagle. So it's all this white outfit with eagle feathers on the arms and on, coming off the tail feathers, and in a mask over the head, making an eagle head. And this person is sitting Indian style on the ground and stands up when he sees me, and points into the cave, and then motions for me to follow. And I don't say anything and I don't hear anything. So I just follow, and this person walks into the cave, into the darkness, and I walk into the cave, and there's just darkness and I can't see anything. And my eyes are trying to adjust, and I stop, and I'm just standing there, and pretty soon I can see a point of light. My eyes adjust and I see a point of light ahead of me. So I start walking, and I'm holding on to one of the sides of the cave, the left side, my hands running down the wall so that, and I'm hoping I don't stumble over something. And I walk, and that leads into another chamber where there's a fire pit. And I walk in there, and there's a fire going, and I look around, and I'm by myself, and my attention goes up in the air behind on the side of the cave. And there is that person again, perched up on the side of the wall on a little ledge, still dressed in this Navajo Kachina doll and outfit. And he kind of descends off of there and lands and is standing, and then points in another direction. And I look, and I can see that there's another cave entrance, and there's some light down at the other end of this cave again. And I turn and I look at the person, and I say, "Who are you?" And he jumps back up and kind of floats up onto the perch and sits there. And I walk over and look up, and I can see up under the mask, and it's my father, who is deceased. And he doesn't say a word, but he looks at me and gives me that wink that he used to give me when he was alive. And then he points to the cave. So I turn around again, and I walk down into this new hallway. And same thing, there's this light, and I walk down there. And when I get into there, there's dragons. And it's just like the scene you see in the movie where there's all the gold and the dragons laying on there. And there's a red dragon there who knew my name. And not my name, Leonard, but knew Kelto. And at the time I was Stormcrow. Now I'm Crow Eagle. And literally knew my name. And I knew the name of the dragon, which I will not speak here for you. And because I knew the dragon's name, this is the same story as the Book of the Dead from the Egyptians, of knowing then God's names on the different ways. When you're on the boat and you're sailing and you're at the different gates, you have to know the name of the god to pass through the gate or not be harmed by this entity. I knew this dragon's name, so we had a conversation, and that was exactly, Megan, the exact same place that you went. She's like, "Oh my God, yes." Oh my God, right? Because you were there. And so literally, right. And so she's talking about the ancient mother dragon, Alba. Yes. And they're all there. And if you know anything about Pendragon and the energy of dragons, you'll know that. And those who know that about the dragons, by the way, it is because in another realm, you are a dragon. and you were. And I didn't know that at the time, but I found that out, that literally I'm a gold dragon and a red dragon in two different realities. This body, or this soul that is in this body, occupies a gold dragon and a red dragon in two different realms. And I didn't know that. And that's how that dragon knew who I was, because she recognized me and knew who I was. And as it turns out, that dragon, and the reason I'm not telling you that dragon's name, was because I was talking to myself. I am a female red dragon in another realm. And when I went there, that dragon recognized me and knew my soul, but knew that I didn't recognize the soul that was in that. We were the same soul. And so I had this conversation with this dragon that I wrote down, and now it's gone. I lost it, but I still have it in my memory as exactly what went on there. And the dragon gave me a lot of information. And as it turns out, it was one of my higher selves talking to me, but I had to go into that realm to where the dragons were, the Pendragon realm, and know the name of the dragon. If you just go there and you don't know the name and the dragon sees you, the dragon will burn you to cinders and cast you into oblivion. So you know that, Megan. I'm the only person I've ever met who's been there that has actually said that openly to me, that that's the place where all the dragons are. And I was there in the cave, and you know the name of the mother dragon. That's crazy that you know that. That's really cool, by the way. Right? Large emerald around her neck. Yeah, see, yes. And I didn't actually go before her, but I know what you're talking about because I've seen that in other visions. The dragon that I spoke to, so I'm not trying to say I'm Alba, right? But that's where you get, by the way, the name for Scotland is Olba. And so you were saying, I don't think you said Olba. I think you said, no, you did, Olba. Olba is the Scottish word for Scotland. And they took that from the ancient ways of the red dragon. And that's why the Scottish flag originally had a red dragon on it in a lot of the kingdoms. And the nobles there had dragons on their things that came from that. So Alba, and so that literally is Alba is the way they say it. Like I would say for Ireland, literally you would say Erin go bra, meaning Ireland forever. And then for Scotland, they say Alba go bra, and Alba is red dragon. It's another reason why Rothschild changed their name to Red Shield. Rothschild, that's what Rothschild means Red Shield, because they're trying to portray that they're part of the dragon clan, but they're not. They're part of the Eagle clan, and that's they're from the Habsburgs and the Hohenzollerns. They're not actually Alba. They're not actually or Alba. They're not Gales, but or they're Gauls. And so if you know anything about ancient religion, you'll know, right? Yeah, Megan says Alba. Yeah. So literally that is the word that we use for Scots today. Scotland is Alba. That's the land of the Scots, and the Scots literally were the Alba or Albania, like Albania today. Albanians were the red dragon, and that was the energy of those people and their clans. And that's why most of your Scottish tartans were red, the royal families. I come from the Irish, where O'Neill, which was originally yellow and is now green and blue. So it depends on how far back you go. But yeah, she says, yes, very correct. So yeah, Megan, one of the oracles calls me the history book. I am a Melchizedek. I don't use the title very often, but if you know what that means, then you understand that I'm not veiled. So I have full access to the Akashic records and all of my memories of all the lifetimes I've had. All I have to do is focus on them. And that, a lot of you guys can achieve that. Everyone can. But I'm one of those few people that are walking around you that's completely unveiled. And one of the psychics said that one time about a month or two ago now. She's like, you're not veiled at all. And I was like, no. And she's like, wow. Because I didn't say that to her. They sold her from the other side. The reason he's having so much issue is that he's not veiled, right? And then Maddie says, weird that I was thinking about the Rothschilds earlier. Well, that's sort of the way things work with the Law of One, even if I started playing the Law of One right now, which I haven't done. But literally you'll find that what's going on and what you're thinking about during the day and what's going on in your life, and sometimes geopolitically, then all of a sudden I start bringing up the Law of One on a Friday, and everything that I'm talking about in there, or the Law of One is talking about, will all of a sudden resonate, and people go, this is weird that Ra is literally talking about something I was literally thinking about. Well, it's just like anything else, that you're here because you're supposed to be here right now, today, in this class, because we're supposed to be talking about this. So you were actually talking about, right? And it just says, and what even crazier is that Ra is my guide. See, so well, that's probably because you're here on the same lifeboat that I'm here on. And this is one of the reasons why I'm here, and why I call my show Orion Rising and my book Orion Rising, is because that name resonates with those souls who are in fact wanderers, who came here on the same bus that the rest of us did. There's a very large group of us that came here. We're actually known as the Patal, that came here from there to do what we're doing here. And the majority of us are asleep in this lifetime, but I'm one of the beacons that's here to wake up you and anyone else that's ready to wake up. You get drawn by different things that lead you here, and then you find this place and you either think I'm crazy and you don't come back again, or then you start getting involved and you start talking more to us, get in the chat. We have a Law of One chat on Messenger where we talk, and then we all communicate with each other and start learning about what's going on in the world. And we then work together because we're actually part of the same coalition of light, the Orion Coalition of Light, that came here with the Orion Council of Light, which is literally attached to the Council of Venus, or the Galactic Council, or the Council of Planets, depending, right? And Orion's belt, right? Keith says Orion's belt is the hammered bracelet of Thor. Yes, Thor used to wear the belt that gave him his incredible strength and immortality around his waist. And why is that? Because if you look at Thor and Thor's hammer, put that in the sky and put a shield in Thor's hand, and his hammer in his hand instead of a club or a bow, it's literally Orion. And why is his belt important? Because the belt of Orion is where most of us came from. I'm from the middle star. Peter, who's here, Peter Coyle, who just made a comment, he's from the star on the right, if not the star that I came from, but I think he's on the right. And Cassie is from the star on the left. But we go back to a single point prior to that, and the three of us are aware of that. Some of you are drawn to Orion, and specifically Orion's belt, in your knowledge and the things that you learn, because you also came from there. That means that you are either here because you are a wanderer and you came with the Patal here to do what I'm doing and all the other people are doing. And it is now my job, one of people like me, I'm not the only one on this earth, but there's millions, if not billions of us. Well, there are billions of us that are here, but millions of us that are awake. And that we are here to draw your attention, to help you to ascend and to wake up, so that you, right? Yeah, it's Bifrost, the Rainbow Bridge, right? And it's on his right arm. So yeah. So, and then if you look at the Tree of Life, Bifrost goes from Middle Earth up to around on the right side, left side if you're looking at the Tree of Life, but right side if you're justified to being in the tree and looking outward. It goes up to the heavens, to the brain, which is Valhalla, or Asgard, as it were. The city is called Asgard, and that's in Valhalla. So, or it makes up that land of the gods. So, literally, that it would be the left arm where the shield, and the right arm of the hammer. But they usually just don't show that anymore. They've separated in the pantheon of the comic books to Captain America with the shield only, with no hammer, and then Thor with the hammer and no shield. And if you watch the latest movies, the last one, Infinity War, you see that Thor then goes and gets a new war hammer made. And when they're fighting, his girlfriend, who's human, has ascended to that status, and she's able to pick it up. But at one point, he throws his warhammer Mjolnir, and it lands on the ground, and all of a sudden the Captain America picks up, and he's able to pick it up and use it and throw it, and Thor looks at him and smiles and goes, I knew it, and then he laughs, and then he goes back with the other hammer, and he's using the big hammer that he just had made, and letting Captain America use his warhammer. And that was because the two of them were split, one mortal and one immortal. And you don't know about that because they don't talk about that, but if you know mythology, you see that and how that plays out. But that's not how it was in real life. That's just what they did in that storyline. And that's how that came back together to show how pure of heart Captain America really was, and how he fits into the God category of a human being ascending to that position. Because he was also, self-sacrifice and the hero character, which is what literally Joseph Campbell was talking about in mythology of the hero with 1,000 faces. Okay. So, so let's get back to on point, right? and go from there. Maybe we can let Raw do some talking, which I haven't done. We're an hour and a half in, haven't even started, but literally we're going to talk about the longevity of people now. He's going to talk about Akhenaten and how the life expectancy there, and then we'll move into more stuff. But if you guys have questions, let me know. This is what I do, and I'll be doing this more, especially when my book comes out. I won't be doing the Law of One at that point. Probably I'll just be doing this and talking to you guys. But you come here because you have a knowledge and it draws you here, and then you ask questions, and then we move on to that, right? But let's get back to letting Raw do some talking instead of me just doing all the talking, right? But yeah, you guys let me know if you have questions, and I will answer them as best I can as we go. Okay, let's continue with the Law of One.
23.11 Questioner. You probably can't answer this question, but I will ask it now since we are in the area that I think this occurred in. I feel this somewhat of a duty of mine to ask this question because Henry Poverick will be visiting me later this month. Was this entity involved in any of these times of which you have just spoken? Ra. I am Ra. You are quite correct in your assumption that we can speak in no way concerning the entity Henry.
Okay, so any of you guys that are here that are new, that if you guys want to join the chat, that we have Law of One chat, Law of One class chat on Messenger. Let Cassie know, or I think Penny, or one of those girls, Denise, Penny. I think they have the ability. If not, Cassie does. So if you got, I know Cassie does. I'm pretty sure. If not, let me know, because I'm pretty sure Cassie, you need to be an administrator there if you're not already. So let them know if you guys want to join the class chat so that you can talk more and ask questions when we're not live, because that's 24 hours a day is there. And we are all on there because we're all around the world at different times, but we all will come on as, of course, we're up and awake in whatever country that we are in. But there's people in South Africa, Australia, England, Ireland, the United States, Canada, all over the world, Hawaii, all over the world that are in that class chat. So we talk all the time. So anybody that wants to get in there, let whoever is in here know that you want to get in there, and we'll get you into that. You guys can follow the conversations and ask questions and get to know people to figure out. Because if you are waking up, then you should be in there. Yeah, see, 12:30 where you're at, and it's 4:30 where I'm at. So are you what 12:30 in the morning or 12:30 in the nighttime? So you're either on Saturday afternoon or Saturday morning, wherever you are, Keith. I'm not sure where you are in the world. I'm in California, so it's 4:32 in the afternoon for me over here. But I know some of you are in the UK, some of you are in Australia, and if you're in the UK, it's 8:30 at night, right? Whatever that is. What's 4 plus 8? 12:30. So you would be in. So if you're in the UK, it's 12:30 a.m. for you. Peter Coyle is in Ireland. It's 12:30 in the morning for him. All right, so let's continue with this. But if you guys want to get in the chat over there so we can continue conversations afterwards, please do so. If you want to talk to me personally, message me and we can talk as well. Because some of you are just now waking up. Some of you may already be awake, but not know that you're part of a confederation or a coalition. And some of you may not be, but you may want to join a coalition to help, and you want to place an avenue to where you can go down and talk and get your word out and get your message out. That's what we do here. That's what we do. All right, is we help you guys to achieve that. And get your message out. And if you want to work with us and going forward, that's fine. And if you don't, you want to do things on your own, we can help you to teach you how to do it at a very low cost so that you can get your word out to the world. Okay, so let's continue.
If you will consider this entity's distortions with regard to what you call proof.
See, now, Megan, that's a good question. Okay, so Megan posed any questions. So a starseed, originally reading consists of me going to your natal chart and finding certain markers to tell me whether you're starseed and if you were then your origin. And then I go in and I channel a member of your origin of the High Council, then come through me for a number of different upgrades and activations, then a 6-card reading, which is 6 direct messages from your star family too, and then that's where it cut off. Or I guess you meant also. So some people would definitely need that and want that. So that might be something that you might want to look into. I would say, Megan, we should probably talk. You should probably be in the chat and talking, right? In the chat with other people. Right? Yeah. Peter said, yeah, I'm always checking the messages in the law chat because he doesn't sleep, because he never sleeps. He's awake almost forever. I'm awake most of the time too. Some of us just don't sleep much. We have too much to do, right? So yeah, you were saying to you. That's what I thought you were trying to say with that, because you had 2, but you didn't have the word after that. Messages from your star family to you. So yeah, absolutely. And I would love to have a reading by you to see what exactly that you would. So we'll have to do that to see what exactly that you would come up with, because I love how people get blown away when they have readings from me, and I don't usually talk too much about what they read, even though I mentioned a little bit of that here in the psychic reading and development, which is what we called it before. It is now returning to the old ways. What we did for years there was literally, if you came in, we would help you develop any of the skills that you needed to be a reader of any kind or a healer of any kind. I'm a Reiki master teacher as well, and a medium. I just don't talk about that here, because here I'm just talking about spirituality and not talking about all those other skills. I've been teaching for more than 35 years people how to cast spells and write spells and intentions, and how to literally do circles and make things and wands and why all of that. Literally, I'm a walking encyclopedia for all of that for my whole entire life. I was doing that and have been still. So, and I teach a lot of things. So I'm not taking away from what you're saying, because when it comes to other mediums, because you know how it is, if you're a medium, you can't read yourself. So you can only know what you know, but you can't read yourself in that way. Even Melchizedeks can't read themselves in that way. So you literally have to have someone else read you. So I go to readers, and a lot of times it blows them away when they're reading me. So when we were teaching people and they wanted to be a reader in our group, you had to go and read. We'd make you read 3 of the admins in the group, and then the admins would get together and assess what your level of reading ability is, and then we would be able to assist you and have you read for us, or not just us but other people, for free in the class, and then start charging people on your own to do so. And we would help you with all of that, but we needed to assess where you were. That way we'd weed out those people who are fake, obviously, because it doesn't take long for us to figure that out, because you can stalk my Facebook page and then do a reading that is all about my Facebook page and what you would learn from there. That's why there's not much about me on my Facebook page. Or you could listen to a few of my shows. That's why I don't talk a lot about myself in here, except for today. You guys have drawn out a little bit more than I normally talk about out loud. So we would do that to assess, and I'm very hard to read. If I don't want you to read me, you're not going to. There's very few people I've ever met that can read me when I say no. Okay. And some people can just go, well, I'll just ask your higher self because of the greater good. I know that because of being a medium myself. That doesn't work on me. And there's a few of us that doesn't work on. And so we literally would do that on purpose. And so when I open up and allow someone, let them have access. Let's see how far they can go. That's another way I try to see how powerful you are. And sometimes it exceeds your own abilities. And I've done that with psychics, and they're like, oh my God, this can't be real. I must be making it up. I'm like, no, I can validate that. And I've had other people in the crowd that have said, no, I know that about Leo. And I know that sounds crazy to you, but no, that's true. And so I would love to see what you would come up with. So we'll have to get together afterwards, and maybe not today. It depends, on how long I'm on here and talking and all that. But at some point, I would love to talk to you and check your ability level and find out what you know. I try to do that with everybody, anyways. You can ask Cassie, you can ask Peter. They do the same thing. We assess people, so we literally want to have conversations with you because we want to know just how advanced you are, because we're always hoping that you'll be more advanced than we are, because then we can learn from you. That's it's what we all strive for. If you're in service to the all, service to others, in service to the one or to the all, you literally it's learn, teach, learn. So if you literally are wanting to learn, that's the knowledge of love, or the love of knowledge. That's literally what the word philosophy meant to the Greeks, who gave us that word. Philosophical thought. Philosophy means the love of knowledge, or the knowledge of love. And so it's a concept that literally means you can't get enough of that, but you want to learn everything you can learn, but you also want to teach everything you can. But to teach is to learn, and to learn is to teach. Okay, let's continue with Raw. So please contact me or get into the class chat so that we can stay in contact, because I would love to talk to you later, as well as a few of you else that are in here that I didn't mention that I have talked to tonight that I've seen here. You guys are very awake, and I would love for you guys to stick around so we can find out how awake you are and see what you're doing, if you're doing anything, and what you're doing to assist these people. And if you're aware of that, and if you're not, we're here to help. So if you need to know, well, what should I be doing? We have people that we can do that to help you find your way, not because we're going to point you, because that's not what we do. We're not here because we have something you don't. We're here to assist you so that you can then find your own way and your own path, because you came here with an intention, with abilities, and with what you wanted to do in this lifetime to help the betterment of the all. And some people, I was in that position myself. We all go through that, to where we're kind of like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing, but I know it's more than this, and I just need some guidance. And so you either get it from your guides, or you get it from somebody here, or both. And that's how the validation works. Okay, let's continue.
Will understand/grasp our predicament. 23.12 Questioner. I had assumed before I asked the question that would be the answer. I only asked it for his benefit because he would have wished for me to. Can you tell me what happened to Akhenaten after his physical death? Ra. I am Ra. This entity was then put through the...
Right? Yes, Megan. Megan says, we're here to help guide you, not give you, but guide. I hated the term teacher. I wouldn't go by that. I literally just allowed people to start saying, I love your teachings in the last 2 years. I've been doing this since I was a child. I remember when I was like 8 or 9, my cousins older said, my God, you sound like a 35-year-old. And they're like, you have a very old soul. So I was talking like I'm talking now when I was 13, 14 years old. That is not a joke. If you knew my family, and I would literally say, talk to my brother or sister or anyone in my family now, if they were on here, they would go, oh my God, you have no idea. He's been like this ever since we've known him his entire life. He's never shut up. He's always been this way. So literally, I hated that term, because I try to tell people, we're not here to teach you, because that means teachers say they have a knowledge you don't have, and they try to charge you for that knowledge. Although charging people is for a service is accepted, because you have to live in this place as well. But the truth is, you're a guide, and in a true guide, that's why people talk about false Sufis or false magi. Because those people who believe they have a knowledge and they become arrogant and egotistical and say that their way is the best way and I know the truth and don't listen to anyone else, because I will tell you, that person is ego, because that person is trying to make you their pet. They're not trying to make you their equal, and someone who is looking at you as an equal, no matter where you are in your development, whether it's above me or below me or exactly in the same place. I will look at you as an equal, because I know that I am, because it's just a matter of where you are in your development compared to where I am. And what I'm doing in this lifetime doesn't mean you haven't already done this in 100 lifetimes and we're higher than I am, but you're not focusing on that currently, or you haven't remembered that because you were veiled really well and you weren't supposed to wake up until now. And so because of that, I can't look at you and judge you and say, I'm more advanced than that person. The second I think that, it's ego. Right? So you can't do that. Right. So I love that you're aware of that. And when I hear someone on a podcast say, I'm only doing this for if I help one individual, then I've done my job. I don't care. I'm not doing this because I want to have 1,000 people live, 2,000 people live while I'm talking, 10,000 people. Anyone who's trying to achieve that, their ego. They're trying to get clicks. They're trying to get friends. They're trying to get followers. They're not actually trying to help. Do you see? Because if they were trying to help, they don't care. If I'm here talking and no one's listening to me live, I don't care, because I do know that when I post it on the MP3 broadcast for the rest of the world to hear, I get people that actually listen to it and follow me. So if you're in here and you listen and follow me, or if you're picking me up wherever you listen to an MP3 broadcast, because I'm on there. And if I'm not, go to podbean.com, or Podbean is, what is it? Orion Rising /Podbean.com. If you go to there, you'll find the RSS number that you can copy and go back to the app that you use and paste it there, and they'll play my episodes all there and my archives for you, so you can listen to it. So wherever you listen to your podcast in the world, I'm doing this so that it's out there for the world, not because I'm trying to get rich by getting enough followers to pay me money and donate all their whatever children and whatever to me. I'm doing this because I'm trying to leave it for the entire planet to help everyone to ascend. And if I die today or tomorrow, I'll know that I've left behind some things that people will continue to find, because it'll be out there forever. And hopefully that will in some way inspire people. Like, for instance, literally, I didn't know about the Tao Te Chi until about 2 years ago. 3 years ago, when I was talking about writing the book that I'm putting out, I was going to call it the Book of the Way, or the Way. And then someone said then I looked up the Way, and there's like 100 books. And then I found that the Book of the Way, the Tao Te Chi means the Book of the Way, was written in 634. Actually, it was written after his death, so it was probably about in like 500 or 400 BCE. They put together stuff, if not later on than that, but it's based on what Lao Tzu said in 634, 633 BCE. That's before Common Era. That's 600 years and 34 years before Jesus was even born. Literally, it's the same message that I'm teaching now. So the point of that is that the message is the same because it's universal. The message that the Buddha, it's a religion now, came up with, the message that the Tao Te Chi, which is Taoism now, those became religions, and they were literally the same universal message that all of these people, that Jesus was teaching, Moses was teaching, Muhammad was teaching, Mahatma Gandhi was teaching, even Martin Luther and Martin Luther King Jr., Martin Luther being the guy who created Lutheranism, who didn't want to be called after him and hated it, but they called it after him, and when he died, it became solidified. All of these people, I'm not saying I want to become a religion, but all of these people had the same universal knowledge. So I don't have something that someone else can't achieve on their own, because they can. Enlightenment and true enlightenment is universal, and that comes with actual ascension of the soul in a spiritual way. So for those people who are not to that place of achievement, I'm here to give them the tools to do so. And all of us who are of that higher level of achievement, when you get there, it's an obligation that you have, that you realize that you need to. And that was what I was talking about at the very beginning of the show tonight, where literally when you get there for the first time, you go, I'm just going to pull back and not tell anybody anything because this is supposed to be happening. It's when you achieve that higher realm of 5D thinking, when you become that spiritual mindset of the fifth dimension, density, not dimension, density, spiritual level. That's when you realize that vibration is, I'm going to have to, I should be helping because this is what I came here to do. And then you realize that it's literally that you are from a realm where you volunteered to come here to do this. So this is natural, and you coming here to do this is also natural because it's part of your existence in that dimension or that density where you're from spiritually, that this is a part of an exercise for that. So, okay. Let's continue, right? With the love one. Sorry, you got me off, Megan. You got me off on a tangent there. I apologize to people who are getting annoyed with me doing that.
A series of healing and review of incarnational experience which is appropriate for third density experience. This entity had been somewhat in the distortions of power ameliorated by the great devotion to the law of one. This entity thus resolved to enter a series of incarnations in which it had no distortions towards power. 23.13 Questioner. Thank you. Can you tell me what the average lifespan was at the time?
Well, don't say sorry, Megan. It's okay. I prefer the Q&A. That's why I'm here live, so that we can have these conversations. I'm just apologizing to those people that may get annoyed, but they probably already left. Like, hey, he starts rambling, not even talking about Raw. He's just sitting there trying to talk about himself. He's all ego. That's not what I'm here to do. That's not why I'm here. Right? There is no ego here. I'm not here because I'm trying to get popular or get people to give me money. But for my book, you guys will have to pay for that. I'm not going to give it for free, because until we change things, which is what my book is about, till we change things on this planet and get people to realize that we don't need money and that everything just needs to be done because it needs to be done and change the face of the world, then it won't matter. And if I write a book, I'll just put it out there for people to read, and I don't have to have to charge money for it. The way this society works, unfortunately, we have to charge money, because if you don't charge money, then people don't think it's worth anything at all. If you try to give it to them for free, they go, well, it must not be worth anything, or you wouldn't be giving it to me for free. For the perfect example, if you're in the United States and you're above the age of 30, you understand this. When back in the day, when the Saturn first came out on the market, and all the brand new Saturns were in the car lots, they were being sold for $11,000 to $12,000 at the time, when all other cars were going for $35,000 and $40,000. They're now going for what, $75,000. But 30 or so years ago, when the Saturn first hit the market, they were being sold cheap, and so nobody wanted to buy them, and they couldn't sell them. And so they started asking people in surveys, why don't you want to buy a Saturn? And they're like, well, it's cheap. It's only like $11,000. It must be a pile of shit. It has to be crap because it's so cheap. And they're like, no, it's just as good as all other cars. Well, then why aren't you charging that? I don't want one, because I don't believe that it's worth the same as a Mustang. Because a Mustang is $37,000. So I'll buy one of those, or a Ford pickup. So the CEO of the company literally sent down a message to everyone in the entire company around the world: raise all the prices on the stickers of every car, raise them all by $20,000. If it's $11,000, I want it to be $31,000. If it's $12,000, it's $32,000. Just go out and change the prices of everything everywhere in the world overnight, now. And everyone's like, are you serious? And he's like, yes, change the prices. So they literally doubled the prices overnight, more than doubled the prices. And guess what? It's been the best-selling car since then. Best-selling car since then. Sold more vehicles than any other company in that same time period. Look that up. I'm not making it up. So perception is my point. And in this third dimensional place, if you're of a third dimensional reality, then you literally think that something has to be high price or it's not worth anything. If I'm a Reiki master teacher, if I'm going to attune you, I'm going to charge you $100 to $250 for every attunement. And that's not just me giving you Reiki. That's me attuning you so that you're a Reiki practitioner. And people say, well, why does it cost so much? You need to understand how much it's worth. And so the trading of me giving you this, because you're going to be able to charge people money for, it's $1 a minute. And it has been. That hasn't actually changed in 35 years. It's been $1 a minute for a Reiki, for me to Reiki heal you or give you Reiki energy. It's been $1 a minute since I learned Reiki when I was 21 years old, and I'm going to be 56 in 9 days. So it hasn't changed. I keep an eye on the market because I'm a Reiki master teacher. So I know how much it costs, and how much it costs for each attunement hasn't changed either. I paid, I think, $125 or $150 for my first and second attunement. And then later on, because I had already paid that when I redid this back in 2016, I only paid, you can do this from my teacher now. She doesn't charge much. She's in Australia and I'm here in the United States. And I think I paid $25 for each one, maybe even less for each attunement. It was because I already had them and I was getting reattuned. And then because I was going on and doing the classes and getting my master, and she splits the attunement into master and master teacher and makes you be a teacher and teach for like 3 months to get your teacher certificate. She wants to make sure that you understand what it means, which I never got from her. I didn't want the teacher certificate, even though I am, because you don't get a master and not be a teacher. Some people just split it because they wanted to double the price. And so they would charge you $250 for master and $250 and you're paying for the certificate, not because you're getting a new attunement, because there is no new attunement. And they try to invent one by giving you different symbols. But if you go back, I was attuned by the Reiki master who invented the entire thing. But the second time from the Endemi, which was Melissa Crowhurst. You can look her up. Crowhurst You can look her up. She is actually from what's his name? I can't think of his name right now. From his wife. She continued after he died. She continued to be a teacher. So my teachings of my Reiki are both from source. One from the source itself in that line, and then so if you're into like Wicca, that's important. Source energy is important. It's not of peripherals. You know what I mean? But everything is from source anyways. So, but some people have the status, and that's like going to law school at Cal Berkeley or going to law school at Brown or Yale or Harvard or Princeton. Those people over there that pay $1 million a year claim that they have some sort of different kind of law that's better than the people at Cal Berkeley. But the people at Cal Berkeley have to pass the California bar exam, which is the hardest bar exam to pass on the face of the earth. So anyone who's in California, no matter what school you go to, if you take the California exam, you have a better qualification than those people who paid $1 million a year for the same qualification, even though they claim status above you. All of that is ego and third dimensional ideology. Anyways, so don't be. I like again. I apologize if some of you think that's a tangent that I'm going on, but it's not. Right. It is actually tying into, but now we're talking about Akhenaten and living for 35 years, 30 to 50 years at the time of Akhenaten. Let's continue.
I'm of Akhenaten for the Egyptians. Ra, I am Ra. The average lifespan of these people was approximately 35 to 50 of your years. There was much, what you would call, disease of a physical complex nature. 23.14 Questioner, can you tell me of the reasons for the disease? I think I already know, but I think it might be good for the book to state this at this time. Ra, I am Ra. This is, as we have mentioned before, not particularly informative with regard to the law of one. However, the land you know of as Egypt at that time was highly barbarous in its living conditions, as you would call them. The river which you call Nile was allowed to flood and to recede, thus providing the fertile grounds for the breeding of diseases which may be carried by insects. Also, the preparation of foodstuffs allowed diseases to form. Also, there was difficulty in many cases with sources of water, and water which was taken caused disease due to the organisms therein. 23.15 Questioner, I was really questioning more about the more basic cause of the disease rather than the mechanism of its transmission. I was going back to the root or thought which created the possibility of this disease. Could you shortly tell me if I am correct in assuming that the general reduction of thought over the long time on planet Earth with respect to an understanding of the law of one created a condition in which this what we call disease could develop? Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct and perceptive. You, as questioner, begin now to penetrate the outer teachings. The root cause in this particular society was not so much a bellicose action, although there were, shall we say, tendencies, but rather the formation of a money system and a very active trading and development of those tendencies towards greed and power, thus, the enslaving of entities by other entities and the misapprehension of the creator within each entity. 23.16 Questioner.
Right, so here we're talking about now the fall. This is a manifestation in the flesh. The fall of man is a manifestation in the flesh of the fall of the spirit, which is a manifestation of the dissension into this place, which is the veiling, which was intended to happen and supposed to happen so that everyone could have this and complete experience and all the experiences that we're having. So all of this was necessary. So when people were like, oh, and the human race fell. Well, we did because we chose, everyone here was the usurpation of free will happened by literally burning all of the knowledge and taking away the knowledge of ascension to keep everybody in this status, right? Where does Ra stand for? Mel says, Leonard, what does Ra stand? Oh, what does Ra stand for? It's actually Ra is just RH. And you might want to get one of your Egyptians to get more into that. You may know, Mel. Maybe that's why you're asking that question. But that's a long conversation. But Ra here in this vernacular is what they call themselves, and they never revealed to the people what that meant, other than a hive mind complex. But Ra, we have that symbol as well as a hand gesture, as well as a word, and that's in Egyptian. That's a third dimensional thing, and the Ra was it's a concept of the sun god. It literally is the law of one. It is literally that translation manifesting itself in the Eye of Horus. It's the third eye. So Ra is enlightenment. I don't know what the exact definition of RA stands for, but the RA stands for in the Egyptian pantheon stands for the son of destiny, or the son of God, or the son of light, illumination. So Ra would be the Magi. Ra stands for illumination, which stands for ascension and knowledge. So that's actually a really good question that you asked that. I was like, I think if we have an Egyptian scholar here, they could tell you the exact words. But yeah, the sons of light would be a little bit more appropriate in the Egyptian pantheon. So love and light. So everything on earth, you have to remember, is, man. It's all masculine. Man, sons of light. So yeah, and Anna, I love Anna. The DNA, love, oneness. Ra means that. So it means the all. It means the sun. Our sun is the life giver here on earth. It's a yellow sun, and that's a third ray chakra, and that is the place of doing. That's third dimension. So in this place, Ra would mean the son of light, or the son, like Jesus is the son of God. Jesus would be a Ra. Ra is illumination. It is enlightenment. In our DNA our very DNA is encoded and that's why I love Anna that she popped in and said that DNA, oneness, because our DNA is encoded. I actually put, if you, I don't think you've seen them, Anna, because you would usually give me a thumbs up. I just did a couple of reels on sacred geometry and showing the sacred geometry and the building blocks of the universe. Because you remember 2 weeks ago, tomorrow I talked to, we actually put it last week, the full video up where I was on Jacqueline Taylor's podcast, and her and I were talking about the law of squares, and we're going to do more to that series. We're going to probably do another couple of episodes. We just haven't talked about when. That we'll film a couple of episodes where we talk more about that. But I just posted a couple of reels or shorts, depending on what platform you look on, and they show you the building blocks, because that has to do with our DNA. Our DNA literally is an encoding and has sacred geometry in it, and the sacred geometry is oneness. And if you read a couple of the Dead Sea Scrolls, one of which says the human race was created with an immortal, what's the word that they used in there that means incorruptible ability. And incorruptible at that time, 2,500 years ago, meant immortal. So the human race, the humans, have a condition that is incorruptible, and that is our heart, that is our love, that's in our DNA. And only through the ascension process can we unlock that part of our DNA, and that has to do with the heart chakra. And there is, the dodecahedron is a manifestation of water, which is a manifestation of the heart chakra and the heart energy, the 0 point energy, the creative energy, the Higgs boson, the God particle, the 3, 6, and 9. And I just showed a couple of visuals for that, but not actually showing. I show you the last 3 that I've just posted. You see that I show the one of them is the in quantum entanglement. And I show you how the cellular structure in quantum physics and the quantum entanglement, and how that shifts into the heart chakra or the heart. And you see that at the end of that one. And then the next one is the building blocks of the universe, and showing you the different shapes and the mathematical equation of that, which, Anna, that'll screw you up like I did with the Enigma of 24. And you'll have to ask me again. She was laughing about that one when I showed her that. She's like, whoa, Leo, help. This one is even worse with the math. There's another one where there's hand-drawn math for the dodecahedron, showing you both the Fibonacci sequence and the golden mean sequence, and all of that, and how that interprets into the 33 of the vertebrae and the 33 of the points in the human DNA. And that's where all of that is aligned to. And Ra is the knowledge or the enlightenment of that. But everything that manifests on earth, because man is always men have always been the dominant ones who have controlled everything. and women have always been pushed out until now we're going into the age of Aquarius, where the equality, not equity, the equality of both sexes and both energies of that Kundalini. And everyone knows the Kundalini energy and assumes that when they say Kundalini, that they're talking about both of the spirals, and they're not. Kundalini is the masculine energy. The Kunda buffer energy is the feminine energy that goes along with that duality. And the only place you see that is in the Celts and the Vikings with their knotwork, especially the Celts, but which they're dual, with two energies intertwined. And you see that in the Egyptian pantheon with the snakes going up and that's the spine. And at the top where you see the wings is the brain. And they've taken that and perverted it into the medical association. And they don't realize that that's illumination. That's the Christos. That's the Kundalini energy. And I show you that when I show the Kundalini and the DNA together, and people are like, I don't understand this. You're showing this snake figure going up, and then the what do they call it? Double helix. It's literally the same. So your DNA is the Kundalini energy if you charge your body with it, and that's Ra. Ra is masculine, feminine. The R is the masculine factor, and the A is the feminine factor of the two energies. And when you put them together and you say Ra, that's the same as saying Om. It hits the same tone. People aren't aware of that. So Ra at a different octave, it's at G minor, G major. It's a G major when you go Ra, and Om is at C plus. So or it's a flat C. I'm not exactly sure right this second. Some of you out there will know. So the Ra is the masculine Kundalini, and Om is the feminine Kunda buffer. And if you took those two tones, Ra, that's literally the same tone, the same vibration at a half octave off. It's actually a full octave because it's C plus and G plus. So G is the negative, and then the A is now hitting the C plus. So the flat C is where we reside here. That's why everything is based on C here. C is your flat bass here for music, because that's the three energy that is the bass. And at the highest point in the octave or the lowest point, the 9 is the G flat or the G minor, right? G major, G minus. So it's literally 1 octave below C plus, and C plus is literally a half octave above C, and C is the bass line here. And I know that's probably screwing some of you up, but but literally that's the Ra. So Ra is the masculine and feminine, both Kundalini, Kunda buffer together. But when you say the Ra, because you're using the R with the then that becomes the masculine, which is a G on the cycle of sound, and in a slightly, it's not, what is that, 47 hertz? It's 46.3975, and then Om is the perfect pitch because it's the feminine. When you mix the two together, when you get the and the together, that's when you take the 3, 6, and 9 sound of those vibrations and you mix all three together, and that's the God energy. Which Peter, what is the God? What is it? 875 or 847 hertz. With that, Peter Coyle, if he's here, he'll pop that up there. I always forget the exact number. But when you combine the 3, 6, and 9 together, all of those, the humming, all those three energies become the God energy, which is that source energy. So the C energy is the energy of the energy of the soul here at this level, and then the masculine and feminine energies are Ra and Om. And so different cultures, you have the cultures in the East that followed the Om feminine, and if you look, most of their gods or goddesses are the feminine energies, and then the Egyptians were God. They were very masculine, and so they went with Ra and masculine gods, and so did the Greeks, and so did the Romans. In fact, Roma, is the name of Rome, the country of Roman, to be Roma or Romian, which became Roman. That's Ra. Again, it's the R-O, but if you look at it in the Latin, it's R-A. And so a lot of people don't know that. It's just like Jesus, when he was crucified on the cross, what were the letters that were used for Jesus on the cross? And what were the sounds of those letters? In it literally, they say it meant, those three letters meant, all were initials for words that meant Jesus Christ, King of the Jews. But look into that, guys. Look into the Hebrew or the Sanskrit at the time and what those letters stood for and their sound. Again, going back to what Bruce Lee said and what we say about spelling, and if you look at the Egyptians, so let it be written, so let it be done, famously from Ramses II in the conversations with Moses, when they were literally play that in the movie. So let it be written, so let it be done. And writing in red ink was more powerful because writing was in fact words. That's why they call it spelling, because you're casting spells when you're writing something, words, because words have power and have meaning and have weight to them. So writing something down, so let it be written, so let it be done, means that it is, if it's written, then it's there for eternity. Like today, on a podcast, it's out there in the ether forever. You can't delete it. They can try, but it's on so many platforms. Like my show is listened to in over 75 countries around the world. That means I'm literally in 75 countries on some platform. And if each country has their own platform that people are listening to me on a podcast, their own app, that means I'm already on 75 different apps around the world. So if they delete me off Google from YouTube, or then delete me off of Facebook, or both of them get together, that doesn't mean that I'm stifled from the entire planet. I'm just stifled from the audience who only goes to those two places, YouTube or Facebook, to hear me. And so same thing. I have books that are in the Library of Congress, 3 of them currently. They'll be there until the Library of Congress in the United States is destroyed, right? Until that burns down and all the records burn down and everything that is remembered of that disappears off the face of the earth. Otherwise, people have access to my books. And this book that I'm having published currently will be in the Library of Congress. I paid for have that done so that it is there no matter what happens. So if everybody burns every book, they have to burn all the books in the Library of Congress and all the records of that to destroy all the books that are collected. And other people around the world are doing the same thing in their countries. The English have theirs, and Rome has theirs, and the Catholics have. And then if your DNA is being, and all your names and all of that is being correlated by the religion that is the Mormon religion in the world. They literally control and have, and I'm okay with that. Somebody has to be in charge of trying to remember all of the names and cultures of everyone on the face of the earth. And they decided to do that no matter what the website is. If you go to a website that is looking up family history, find out who owns it. You're going to find out the Mormon Church owns it. There's nothing wrong with that. Some people get paranoid. They're like, well, they're trying to control everything. No, they're trying to hold on to records. So they wanted, because during the plague, the bubonic plague in Europe, that's the Black Death, the Black Plague, we lost 25% of the population of the earth at that time. Names and families were eradicated and lost to history because the history was not kept by someone. So there are names that were thousands of years old, family lineage, that is now gone off the earth and extinct. And we will not have any memory of it. And it's in the Akashic records, right? It's in the Akashic record, the Halls of Momente, depending on what religion you follow. Which record would you call that, record keepers, right? So, but it's very cool, right? Cassie said that's very cool to hear about being the record keepers. So that's what they do. And I'm okay with that. It's really cool that they do that because we do that as well. And that's what a lot of people don't realize. Everything you do in your life is being kept, you're being recording it from your perspective. There's also a camera on you from the universe that's also watching you, that's recording it from the outside perspective. And you're being recorded by every single person that is attached to you, that is remembering you, that ever is associated with you, brothers, sisters, cousins, people that you meet, friends, family, whatever, that have ever met you. All of those can be put together, say after you are gone, say after we're all gone, and say they want to get the total record of your life. Your life flashes before your eyes just before you die, right? Well, literally in the Hall of Records is your perspective, a perspective that is third person watching you, and then the perspective of everyone else that have ever ever met you and saw you anywhere in the world can be pieced together to see. So the only gaps will be the places where nobody was watching you, and then the universe is recording that. So literally you can watch from every perspective of other people's perspective, your perspective, or a completely non-existent, non-egoic, emotional vision that is also being recorded. That is all there for you to access. And when you die, and this is what we're talking about right here with the law of one, so you can see I'm getting back on point, that literally they're saying, where is Ra when Ra died, or I'm sorry, Akhenaten. Akhenaten goes to the place of reflection and healing, her healing and reflection. That's what happens to all of us. And I talked about that last week, so let's continue.
Thank you. Now, I understand, if I am correct, that a South American contact was also made. Can you tell me of approximately the same question I asked about your contact, with respect to the attitude or about the contact, and its ramifications, and the plan for the contact, and why the people were contacted in South America? Ra, I am Ra. This will be the final full question of this session. The entities who walked among those in your South American continent were called by a similar desire upon the part of the entities therein to learn of the manifestations of the sun. They worshipped this source of light and life. Thus, these entities were...
Right, Mel, I can trace I'm not Mormon, but I can trace, and I have. Mel says, my brother is a Mormon, and he has traced our family lineage back to the year 700s. I've traced mine to the year 900, so a couple hundred years past yours. And that's just where I stopped, right? And that's crazy that we can do that because somebody is holding on to those records and has them at their, to look up. But the Mormons only share them with Mormons. But then if you have somebody who is Mormon in your family, they can go get them and share them too, and show them to you, or tell you about it, right? But you can't go into certain places. I know that because I have friends and family that are Mormon as well. No one in my family currently, but my ex-wife was Mormon. But she was, after we were separated, she became Mormon. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. But what I'm saying is she was telling me that. And I knew a guy that worked with my ex-wife who was a Mormon who told me that. Yeah, you can't go in there. I've gone to the temples, but there's certain places you can't go unless you're Mormon. And I'm okay with that. You can't go to a mosque in certain places unless you're a Muslim. I don't look at that and go, they're hiding something from me. Only paranoid ego says that. But somebody's got to do it. I'm glad the Mormons are doing it. And more power to them. I hope they actually keep track of everybody and they correlate that shit. Because one day they're going to uncover whether Jesus was truly alive. Maybe they've already done that and they're just not telling anyone. But the truth is, somebody has to do it. So I'm glad the Mormon Church has dedicated themselves to be the people that are keeping track of all of that knowledge, because someone needs to do it for posterity. Even though it's there in the Akashic records or the Hall of Momente, not everybody can access that. So when you're on a physical level and you want to access your ancestors, and Ancestry.com is owned by them, 24andMe or whatever it's called, that's owned by them. There's like 4 websites out there. Some are free, but those are, you want to really get into things, you got to go and pay them on one of the websites. Those are all owned by the Mormon Church. And I'm glad for that, because of that, I was able to literally check my DNA, and then, of course, they have a record of it. But then I was able to put together more information about my entire existence, literally going back to the year 900, right? 990 to be precise. I can literally trace my lineage to the year 990, and we are in the year 2023. And you can trace yours back to the 700s. That is 600 BC, or you're saying 700 BC. So that's the 600s. I can go back to the 800s. You can go back to the 600s. That's insane, right? But that's badass that we can do that. And then I bet you if we really tried, we could go back further. It's just a little bit harder back then. But I'll bet they have it someplace. And someone needs to do it. So good for them for doing that. There's other people that are doing other things, that are collecting information. And some people are using it for nefarious reasons, and some people are not. 14% are going to do that. Right. Right. Mel says, absolutely. Wouldn't you know, my brother is into astrology as well. Coincidence? I know it's not. Laugh out loud. No, it's not. I mean, astrology, they're doing the same thing. The Catholic Church has been interested in scrolls and this information and astrology. They have one of the biggest observatories that are on the planet, literally in hell. Isn't that what they call that? Isn't that what they call that? Where that observatory is. I know it's something like that, Hades, hell, something like that, where the observatory is. But my point here is that other people are doing these things. Look at the Celts, right? The Celts, the Irish and the Scots, the only reason we have history right now, every single book, including the Bible and all the scrolls that we currently have that are not the Dead Sea Scrolls, because those were found later. The only reason we have those, you can look this up, is because the Irish and Scottish monks went and stole it when they were trying to burn everything. Literally, if you go to the Book of Kells, that's an insane amount of knowledge that they have. The Colburn Bible that the Scots have is literally the first 6 books or 7 books are scrolls that came out of Egypt with Moses. When the Exodus, they went and got knowledge from these people that came out through the Exodus. They got the scrolls from them, copied them, and brought them back to Scotland, and then added them to their ancient scrolls to show. Literally, if you read their scrolls, the scrolls from Egypt and their scrolls, it tells the same story. So they're like, we're validating that our information that we had and the information that we got from these Egyptians that is 5,000, almost 10,000 years old information is the same information that we had over here. The Book of Kells is the same way. But you can literally, there's a book you can read called How the Irish Saved the Humanity or Saved History, and look that up. This literally tells the story about how we have all the history that we have now. Everything that you know as history that is written down, that it literally goes back past the 1200s, is only, or past the Dark Ages, is only here because they were burning all the books. They were destroying everything. The only reason that we have all the information is because they stole it, went back to Scotland and Ireland and hired scribes to recopy all the books. Write this down and make another book. And when they did that and wrote all the books, then they were given to that scribe and told, go to the next city and start a church, or go to the church that's there, go to the abbey that's there and do the same thing. Hire a scribe and have that scribe copy those books, and then you take them and go to another place and have that scribe continue to do that. And that's what they did. And eventually all the books that we have currently now came out of Scotland and Ireland, literally in the Dark Ages. They burned all of history on the entire planet, except for what they recovered from around the world. And some other places hid the knowledge, and you can look that up and you'll find that they have that, like the Mahabharata and stuff. They'll tell you this was hidden away and written afterwards because we found scrolls. So there's other knowledge that came to light, just like the Dead Sea Scrolls came to light and stuff that we found that were in the archives of the Vatican and stuff that they didn't burn at Alexandria. But they were trying to. They tried to eradicate all this knowledge from the earth, because why? They were changing the face of the earth to the new way that the Anunnaki, that what they call the Anunnaki, brought. And that's these builders of civilizations that got everybody stuck. That's the fall. All right. But when you die, let's get back to that. When Ra is talking about here, when you die, and this is Akhenaten, goes to the place of healing and reflection. And that's where we all go when we die. We go to the place of healing and reflection.
Visited by light beings not unlike ourselves. Instructions were given and they were more accepted and less distorted than ours. The entities themselves began to construct a series of underground and hidden cities, including pyramid structures. These pyramids were somewhat at variance from the design that we had promulgated. However, the original ideas were the same, with the addition of a desire or intention of creating places of meditation and rest, a feeling of the presence of the one creator. These pyramids then being for all people, not only initiates and those to be healed. They left this density when it was discovered that their plans were solidly in motion and, in fact, had been recorded. During the next approximately 3,500 years, these plans became, though somewhat distorted, in a state of near completion in many aspects. Therefore, as is the case in all breakings of the quarantine, the entity who was helping the South American entities along the South American ways you call in part the Amazon River went before the Council of Saturn to request a second attempt to correct in person the distortions which had occurred in their plans. This having been granted, this entity or social memory complex returned, and the entity chosen as messenger came among the peoples once more to correct the errors. Again, all was recorded and the entity rejoined its social memory complex and left your skies.
Now, they don't say who this entity was. However, I want to suggest to you that you know who this entity was. If you have any recourse to the Mormon tabernacles, you know the story of was it Joseph Smith and where the entire basis for the Mormon religion was based on a certain individual who came down to the natives in South America, Central America, and North America, who curiously looked is exactly the same description that we were being taught by the Hebrews of and the Romans, that we became Christians, of a certain Christ named Jesus, who came to the earth, who was teaching a certain information. And this description of this person and what this person looked like, what this person wore, and what this person spoke about was identical. And this is the person that Ra is referring to here in this, but does not go into details as to the identity of this person. But I will tell you that that is, in fact, the same identity of the same person, and that what you're hearing about right here in this is about the Christos, the Christ, Jesus, who not only appeared to the people in the Hebrew people in that portion of the world in the Middle East, but also appeared to the people in Central and South America and North America on the West Coast. And some of the people that were here took it wrongly and were murdering each other by sacrificing to the gods. And there's an entire group of people that you know who I'm talking about that were here that disappeared off the face of the earth, not to be mistaken for all of the other groups of people in the South America, Peru, and all of that area in South America that also disappeared because they all ascended. But I'm referring to the small pocket of Aztecs that disappeared, that were murdering people, not to be misconstrued by the other religions that were here at the time and the other peoples. But they were really violent and evil, and they disappeared, but they were taken up to, and I've gotten this from guides and from people here, psychics who have talked to guides, that they were taken up because they were too dark and too evil. And this is what Ra is referring to here, was that there was a corruption, and this person wanted to come back down and reintegrate with the population to change the course of the learning. And one group of people were removed, a couple of million people off the earth were removed to recycle. So that's why they just disappeared. But there is no trace of them because there wasn't a mass destruction or anything like that. But these are some of the things that were also done in order for people to go, I wonder if that was God's wrath that they all disappeared, to enlighten them and give them expansion. However, this is the soul that we're talking about here, that if you are clear of mind and have the mind to see or the ears to hear, have the awakeness for the understanding, you'll realize also that this is what the reference is at this point. And this is the entity they're talking about.
As in our experience, the teachings were, for the most part, greatly and grossly perverted to the extent in later times of actual human sacrifice rather than healing of humans. Thus, this social memory complex is also given the honor/duty of remaining until those distortions are worked out of the distortion complexes of your peoples. May we ask if there are any questions of a brief nature before we close? 23.17 Questioner: the only questions I have, is there anything we can do to make the instrument more comfortable? And since you stated that she seems to be low on energy, is it possible at all to have another session later today? Ra: I am Ra. All is well with alignments. However, this instrument would benefit from rest from the trance state for this diurnal period. 23.18 Questioner: thank you. Ra: is there any other brief question? 23.19 Questioner: this is a dumb question, but there was a movie called Battle Beyond the Stars. I don't know if you are familiar with it or not. I guess you are. It seemed to have what you're telling us included in the script. Is this correct? Do you know anything about it? Ra: I am Ra. This particular creation of your entities had some distortions of the law of one and its scenario upon your physical plane. This is correct. I am Ra. I leave this instrument now. I leave each of you in the love and the light of the one infinite creator. Go forth, therefore, rejoicing in the power and the peace of the one creator. Adonai.
Okay, so if you haven't seen that movie, you guys should watch that, Battle Beyond the Stars. It's kind of campy sci-fi, done with a low budget, but pay attention to, because that, that in the tradition of sci-fi, that's why Doctor Who has stayed campy and low budget. In the tradition of sci-fi, the way it was back in the day when it first started, it's always been campy and low budget. But if you pay attention to the plot, that's actually more important. So they kept things campy on purpose because you had to be a fan. Because the truth is, they were not preaching to trying to win awards for being like Star Wars or something that was very cinematic. They were actually trying to teach you the plots, the words, and the things they were trying to show you with the allegories that they were giving you. So if you go and watch Battle Beyond the Stars, you'll see that it was made, I think, in the 70s or the late 60s here in the United States, I think it was. But the distortions that they have there, the allegory of that story is about the law of one. So you might want to pay attention to that movie if you've never seen it. If you can sit through a very campy, low budget, low technology, because it was when it was made, there wasn't the technology that we have now. And you can see things for the paying attention to the plot line and what's going on instead of the action and the money that was spent on that. But you should pay attention to that. You should watch that if you've never seen it. I may go back and watch it again. I haven't seen it for years, and I was just thinking about that when he was talking about it, going, wow, I remember that movie, and how much of it do I remember? I need to go back. It's one of those things where, you hit a certain level, you go, man, I got to reevaluate everything I've ever read, everything I've ever heard, every song, every video, every movie. And you go back and watch stuff and go, no wonder I was drawn to this. Oh my God, I wasn't awake enough to hear what they were saying. And then you laugh and go, obviously I got that on a subconscious level or a super conscious level. Right. So Mel says, I have a picture when I have 3 spirits, all women, and one is 100% Mother Teresa, and there are 2 women who may have been the by my elbow, or may have been or my guides. I'm curious as to what all of you mediums, spelt wrong, you must be talking to your phone, mediums with your accent, right? You're Australian coming through and not typing properly when you talk. Peter has that problem. I have that problem too, not because I have it. Well, I guess to you, I have a weird accent, right? So I'm curious what all of you mediums would pick up, seeing how many come up with the same information. I would share a picture personally if anyone wants to help me. I'm sure that there'll be people here, Mel, that would want to take a look at that. I may even take a look at that just to see what I can see. But Peter, Cassie, maybe Peter GV, he would be interested in that. He's not here currently, but he's in the chat. I think he's in both. I was going to say he better be in both Law of One and Return of the Old Ways. I can't do all this without Peter. He's my rock, both Peters, Peter Coyle and Peter GV. So you might want to take a look at that. So we'll look at that later on. So there is in the background, but I will tell them about that also. So we'll have to, anybody who does that, if you send that to somebody, hopefully it's somebody in the chat so that I can hear what they see from that too. But I would love to see the picture. Mel, send it to me. I would love to see that. Yeah. Peter said, I'll share a picture as well. I'd be interested. So send it to Peter Coyle. He wants to take a look at it. Megan wants to take a look at it, right? She said, I would love to see it as well. So I would love to see it. Peter Coyle, I think Cassie said she wants to see it. Megan Scott wants to see it. Yeah, I want to see it as well. So maybe we can put that either in the chat or you can share it to us individually so we can take a look at it, because I want to take a look at it myself as well. And I would love to hear everybody's opinion of what they see, because, again, everybody's seeing from their perspective, and we all have different abilities and different levels, and we all get messages from the other side in different ways that we interpret. And some of us are better at that than others. And we can, that's how we get together. We used to do this. Peter will tell you, Peter GV will tell you that we used to help. He still does law enforcement around the world. They don't want to tell you that officially, but we help law enforcement around the world a lot, looking for people when they're missing or solving murders and things like that. And it takes a group of us. One individual can assist really well, but a lot of times it takes 3 or 4 or 5, and sometimes more of us. When we get together, we do things really quickly and we solve things. There's a very famous murder of 2 children, 2 girls, that we started working on a couple of years ago, that they went missing, and the girl had, they found her phone, and she had one quick little blurb of the murderer and some voice of the murderer saying, walk down the stairs. And then they disappeared, and they found the bodies, but they never found the person. Well, they have since. We started working with them a couple years ago behind the scenes, And quickly we were on to something, but they couldn't prove it. And it took a few of us over time to put it together, and it helped the cops find the person. They actually found the murderer of these kids about, I guess, a year or two ago now. So same thing happened when a little girl went missing, and they were looking for her, and they were in, I believe it was the state of Pennsylvania, maybe. And we were called upon to look at that, and she had been gone for about 2 days. And we told the police where to find her. And it was Peter and myself who discovered that it was her father who accidentally killed her and then hid the body and tried to say that she ran away and somebody murdered her out there in the world, some homeless person or someone evil, but it was him. And he went to jail not too long after that. So Peter does that a lot. Peter GV, that is. He does that a lot. He does that more than I do. I haven't done it for a little bit. I pulled back from doing medium work and have been focusing on teaching more than doing readings. But I used to do readings all the time for 30 years. And I did it all the way up until a couple of years ago. And Peter's been doing more of that. And Peter Coyle as well. He does a lot of that as well. But I tend to pull back a little bit and don't do it. And everyone's asking me, why don't you do that? I do it when I work with you individually. I don't do it for people unless I'm called for the, some agency around the world to help with that. Then I give whatever I can. Okay. I'm going to get off here. It's 5:30. I've been on here for what, 2.5 hours now, right? 3:30, 4, 5:30, 2.5 hours. And I talked a lot more today than I normally do, even though you can't shut me up. But we did get through that session. So we'll start on session 20, was that 23 or 24 next week. If you guys have any final questions, pop them up now. Otherwise, I'm going to go. Yeah, Mel says I pull back also. So if you guys don't have any questions right quick that I can answer, then I'm going to hop off of here and get some dinner for myself and for my mother and relax my vocal cords for the rest of the night. But if anybody want to contact me in chat or on Messenger, I will use my thumbs. And Cassie, I am sorry for your loss, and you've been going through some grieving. We've talked a little bit, but not as much, as we normally would for the last week. But I was doing that to make sure that you had your moment and your time without being me bothering you in any way. So I've seen the stuff you've posted, that because I've hit likes and comments on the stuff that you guys have been going through that process, and that's good. And I'm very healthy and glad that you were there to help those people and your family and friends go through what they're going through now. They'll probably need you as long as they need you, right? And I'm sure you will do what it is that you need to do there to help. And I know that your brother's helping you to help them as well. And so namaste. And for those of you who are up late or up early in the morning, like I said, I'd like to say that, this is Orion Rising. I am your host, Leonard O'Neill. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good morrow, depending on where in the world you are tuning into the show. And quickly, anybody that's out there who wants to get into the Law of One class chat or the Returning to the Old Ways, that one's a little more exclusive. But if you want to get into the Law of One chat class or class chat on Messenger, talk to one of the girls that's in there, that's in here now. Cassie, for sure. I know she has the ability to add you. Let's get you in there so that you can be a part of the conversations that we have when we're not actually in the class. Sometimes I give homework. Sometimes Peter gives homework. Sometimes Cassie gives homework. Sometimes we just get conversations going in there. And sometimes we're just part of your guys' question and answering sessions. But a lot more goes on in there than goes on here with just me on Friday. So if you're in any way needing in any way or just wanting to expand the amount of people that you're contacting that you can talk to and learn from or teach or both, just to find out if you're not sure what you're doing on this earth, but you know that you're here to do something and you just want to meet like-minded people to figure things out, there's a good place, a good avenue. They're out there. There's other places out there that are doing it. We're a little bit more exclusive because we're part of a coalition that is intended to do this. We're not like the class chat. We'll just let anybody come and go in there, and you can listen in and leave whenever you want and block us, whatever you want to do. There's other places that we have a little bit more exclusivity for those members of a higher vibration that we pull away from the regular public to move forward and to assist in other ways. You'll see that as you go. So if you're looking for that, and if you're not, and you already have your things in mind, and you don't want to have any ability or any peripherals of anybody bothering you, do your thing. We're okay with that too, as long as you're helping the all and you're here to do. Then you know that, and you know what your mission is. Do your mission. You don't need us, but if you want to, if you want to know that there's other people that you can have an adult conversation with, that's a place to start. That's a place to start. If you don't already have one, there's a place to start to have real adult conversations. All right, guys, I love you guys. Share this out, share this out, share this out. I will see you guys either in the chat or I'll see you next week here. Those of you around the world that don't have access to that chat, you can email me. My email is listed there. You can get a hold of me on YouTube. You can get a hold of me on Messenger, or you can send me an email. If you have conversations, if you guys have access to Messenger, you can go there. If not, you can go to Returning to the Old Ways on Instagram and message myself or Peter GV or Peter Coyle or Cassie. There, we all are on there as well, and we have conversations there. There's just not as many people on that platform as there is on Messenger, and we're expanding our reach to other platforms to pull you guys. We're trying to get everybody consolidated to places where we can talk in groups, where we can help. Going forward, you'll understand that if you're of a high vibration, you'll see that as we go forward and roll out what we're going to in the next few years. You'll see that, and then you guys around the world will know who we are a lot more than just popping into the Law of One and hearing my ugly mug spot talk to you. All right, guys, have a great night. I love you guys, and I will talk to you guys either in the chat or next week. Those of you around the world listening on the MP3 broadcast, namaste. I love you guys too. I keep track. I know where you are and what countries. I look at that and I know where you guys are and when you're listening to me and how many times you click on my show around the world. I mention it. I usually call you guys out. I haven't done it for a little bit just because I've been too busy writing the book that I'm now publishing. Now that it's off to the publisher, I have a little bit more time on my hands. Now I just wait for them to ask me what they need and give them what they need to move forward to get that book out to the world, which I hope to have out during the holidays this year. And the sooner the better, but I'm not rushing it because I want things to be right. So we're looking at 90 days, and that'll be right around, this is September, so October, November, it'll be December. So sometime around Christmas, if I can get it out before, it'll be great. If it has to be after, then it has to be after, but just look forward to that. Currently is going to be titled The Reality About Reality, Returning to the Old Ways, by me, Leonard O'Neill, your host of Orion Rising. Have a great night. I love you guys.